Welcome to the Saints Martini, a cocktails and conversation podcast with your hosts, the Saint and the Halo, Warren and Irish.
And yes, welcome to another Cocktails and Conversations podcast of, well, which we call the Saints Martini. I am, of course, Warren the Saint, and chatting, as always, with Irish the Halo. How are you this weekend? It's been a couple of weeks since we've spoken.
I think at least, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes. So as I take my cocktail in hand and I say salut or cheers or l'chaim or skol or whatever your nationality
Prost.
happens to be. Prost. Yeah, I should have said that, but I don't know why I did. Or I'll give you the Australian one, which is cheers big ears. And I just spilt some on my desk. Don't do that again, Warren.
That's because you used that one.
The last time I did that, as I recall, I destroyed a MacBook Air. But anyway,
I remember that. From all the way over here in the US, I remember that.
Yes. Here's a trick, guys. Your MacBook Air and Scotch don't... No, it was red wine, actually. It was red wine, that's right.
That's right.
And
that
red wine.
Scotch doesn't go with other things.
So, don't mix your MacBook Air and a glass of red wine. Doesn't work very well. Even though... Well, what was it? Although, I do believe, if we believe 80s movies... if you pour champagne all over the keyboard of a computer, your computer comes to life. What movie was that? That was Electric Dreams.
It was Weird Science. Wasn't it Weird Science?
No, Weird Science is where they make the Barbie doll come to life.
That's right.
But I think it was called Electric Blue. No, I think that was the song from it, wasn't it? I can't remember now. I cannot remember that, but he falls in love. Anyway, his computer comes to life, and he falls in love with this girl. And his computer, of course, acts as his sidekick to help, like his wingman, to help him win the girl. It's I don't know. It's 1980s. What can I say?
you know, I want to talk about 80s movies for a minute since you brought that up.
Yeah.
It's so funny how society has, and great, obviously, how society has moved forward in a way where now, when I watch any movie that was very iconic from the 80s, I realize that it's really, really gross. That men are raping drunk women and trading girlfriends when they're drunk and don't know what's going on. You know, there's just all kinds of the weirdest things in this stuff and like really racist. And at the time when I was watching it, like I didn't even think about that when I was growing up. And now that I look back on it, I am just super freaked out. It's like I can't watch another 16 Candles if you paid me. I wouldn't do it because it just pisses me off. I've gotten angry as an old lady.
No, I think you just became a little bit wiser. Well, the other thing too is that it's interesting because as kids, all right, we're watching those movies. We thought they were fine. Well, we were kids. But there were people our age now who were making them, and they thought it was all right.
That was hilarious, yeah.
That's kind of, it is interesting that, like, if you go back to the 80s, the things like sexual assault could still be something we could deal with.
It was a joke.
As a humorous item in a movie.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It is
part
very,
of the
very
plot
strange.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and I think as I've gotten older and older, too, and stuff like this has pushed me more and more to the left all the time as I'm really starting to realize, that society sucks in a lot of ways, and it's the people that were before us that have continued to allow it to happen. And we just have to stop because I'm listening to songs on the radio now. One of them, some country song, if you listen to the lyrics, it's literally like this guy creeps on a girl at a bar and and then he tells her he wants to take her out beyond the railroad tracks where nobody can hear and stuff like that. And he's like, I want to tell me all about you. I bought you a beer, and in it basically the way it says is, I bought you a beer because that's what I know about you, but I'll give it to you if you tell me all about you because I want to do this. And it's gross. Okay, the entire song sounds creepy as fuck. When I really sat there and listened to it, I was like, "What the hell?" This is why we have a problem with rape culture in this entire country. This kind of thing, we got to do something about it.
I don't think it's just the United States, though. I think that's the world over. To be truthful, I think you can even go to very progressive countries. You look at even somewhere like Denmark, you've still got that type of culture. I don't think it's just an American thing.
Oh no, men are awful all over. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, and I hate to say it. No, I agree with you. We are. A lot of us are absolutely fucking bastards. I mean,
I've met a few.
But you can go to, Eastern Europe, a lot of parts of Asia, a lot of parts of Africa, and a lot of parts of South America, where that male-dominated culture is still encouraged. I mean, they're not talking about, what is this this new idea of, what's it called, cancel culture, which everyone's getting upset about. Well, not everyone.
I hate trendy phrases.
Donald Trump Jr. it's forced him to do more cocaine. In fact, that's the thing. I swear that progressives, liberals, and Democrats, however you want to see yourself, the more forceful you are on social media, the more money Don Jr., the more money his drug dealer is going to make. Because I reckon he's just going to put in bigger and bigger orders for cocaine.
Eventually his heart is going to stop. Okay? And we can only hope.
It's like, hey, I'm Rick James. Cocaine's a hell of a drug. I cannot now watch Donald Trump Jr. without seeing that scene of Rick James sitting back being interviewed saying, cocaine's a hell of a drug.
That's probably the perfect one.
It is. It just blends in so well,
Oh, he is so obviously just whacked out of his gourd all the time.
Yeah.
He's really worried right now, and I understand how people self-medicate in dangerous ways when they're in issues, I totally get that. Made me understand my dad a little more once I realized. I was like, oh, no wonder my dad drank a lot and locked himself in the bathroom to play music. I get it.
Right. Yes.
But I would like everybody to just, from time to time, remind me that I should never listen to Fiona Apple when I'm feeling upset because it just gets worse. So I need to learn that.
Yes, there are certain things like that. It's like, why, like you're depressed, so let's listen to... No, don't listen to that. Listen to something that's not going to make you more depressed.
It didn't help. I love her music so much.
Yeah.
But when I was feeling like that, I put it on because I thought it would be soothing, right? No, it just put me deeper in. So... yeah, I just climbed back out of that.
Well, I still remember. I remember having I think it was 18 or something like that, and I had a friend whose boyfriend dumped her, and I still remember. I think she sat back for just living in her bedroom for a week, listening to nothing but Randy Newman, the singer Randy Newman,
yes.
And it's like, honestly, really. Could you choose anything more fucking depressive? Like, why not just paint your walls black?
I actually like that.
It's like, oh my god, yeah. But it's also, but this brings up another thing about, and I know it's a bit different now in country music. A lot of once country music kind of blended with pop music, I know it's quite different now. But a lot of these traditional country songs, they're It's about how the singer is always such an incredible victim of circumstance.
People write music. That's when people write lyrics most of the time, when they're going through something. And they use it as a catharsis to clear their head and to deal. It's a coping mechanism, just like cryptic manic subtweets are my coping mechanism. Anybody who follows me will realize what I'm talking about. So,
yes, it was the old country western line. It's a little bit like every song. I remember the Australian comedian. I shouldn't say the Australian comedian. He's an international name now, Paul Hogan. But back in the days, way back in the early 80s, when I was a kid, and he had a stand-up comedy show or sketch comedy show on Australian TV. Yeah, it was called the Paul Hogan Show. It was like on every Tuesday night or something like that. Ran for an hour, and he would do some stand-up routines and he'd do some sketch comedy with some other people, and he. But I still remember he had this one where he decided he was going to write a country and western song, and he had to make sure that in it, his best friend ran away with his wife, stole his dog, and they all ran away in his truck. And as long as he
that's the best song.
And as long as he did get those three things into the song, it'll be a hit.
Well, no, you also have to add mama and something about church or praying or God. It's all got to be wrapped up into that, and a little bit of fake patriotism thrown in there for good measure.
There's always a picture of a war veteran. Coming home, walking down the, dropping his kit bag on the steps of the family homestead. But the family's been kicked out by the man. The big government's kicked the family out, and he comes back, from war to find that the family's moved on. And oh my God,
I have never seen that, and thank God they don't play that kind of thing here. Our military shit's bad enough.
No. I'm not talking about Australians. Never do shit like that. Australians don't do that. But
Australians don't give a shit. Okay.
Oh no,
I see what you're saying.
Australians turn around and sort of say, "I've been to Afghanistan." Oh, is that a good holiday spot? I've never been. It's not quite that bad, but Australians are pushing that level of like, we're so non-worry. We just don't give a fucking shit. We really don't.
And that's what a lot of us would like over here. We would like to be a lot less worry,
Yeah.
and maybe a lot less killing innocent people, for some stupid fucking political thing, or because 6 guys took a bunker somewhere. Like, please stop killing people. Please.
It would help.
It would.
Yes. And attempted coups. That doesn't help. I did notice that, what was it? So what was it? The QAnon, I don't know what we would call them, the brain surgery candidates that are QAnon. What was it? March 4 was meant to be. It was when Donald Trump would become the 19th president.
Well, there had also been before this chatter that it wouldn't just be the 4th; it would be the 19th or 20th. That the 4th they were using to kind of lull people into a false sense of security that it didn't happen. Right. Although I think like 5 or 6 Trump supporters showed up with their hats on to try to catch a glimpse of like the secret inauguration. I'm pretty sure someone's thinking that he's dressed up like him. It's really Trump. He's pretending to be Joe Biden.
But have you heard this? There is now an actual legitimate, when I say legitimate, it's legitimate to QAnon nut jobs, okay?
Yes.
That Donald Trump and Joe Biden are the same person.
Because, no, that can't be possible with all of them, because my sister is sure that Joe Biden is a pedophile who drinks blood of children.
Oh, no. That was the original Joe Biden. You see,
no, but that's where she still is.
Oh, okay. Well, there's this new theory. You see, that what happened was that the good people in the Secret Service, not those terrible FBI people, but the good people, right? What they did was somehow or other, I don't know, they got Biden or something, and they did, like in the movie Face Off with John Travolta, and they switched faces.
Yeah.
All right, this is no joke, and it's actually Donald Trump there, and that's why the COVID war is going so well, because it's actually Donald Trump there that's doing it.
I saw a really great thread today by somebody from Twitter that his name is Stonekettle, I think.
Right.
Talking about how in the past, I can't actually remember the guy's name now, but this con artist that was predicting the end of the world, and how he got a lot of followers because he had predicted through God math, apparently, like secret codes in the Bible. And he worked out the day of the rapture.
Right.
Okay. And he gave them a date. And so they all were very certain that everything was going to end. Rapture was going to come that day. So they gave him all their money, and went around and preaching the good word, the good news. And then the date came and went, and he was like, oh, I forgot to move a decimal point or whatever. And it's really on this date. And it was like 5 years later.
Right.
So he was able to start collecting, and all those people then were out who had already given him his money were out collecting more money. And because, it's really hard to live your life when you know the end's going to come. So you just give your money to him. So apparently over and over again this happened, and he would make an excuse, and it never happened. And then he died. And then even now to this day, there are still people who believe it still with all their heart. They will never believe that that was a con man. They totally believed the entire thing. And so there was a long thread, and it was a great story. If you guys can find it on his feed, I think Stone Kettle is the name. But I do encourage you to read it. It goes so well with what's happening right now, which he sums up. So, it's pretty scary. That there's some people that no matter what happens, they will never admit that they were wrong, even now, because it would make them feel stupid for being a sucker, So they would just hang on to it so that they don't have to feel that shame,
Well, there is also that some people will realize they're wrong, but subconsciously they have to hang on because that's an admission of failure. So
they feel embarrassed about it.
An embarrassment. That's right. And they keep going. But the whole point is that scam, what I find stunning about that scam is I don't understand how people fall for it. This has nothing to do with a belief in religion or not. Okay. If you are a devout Christian, the thing that blows my mind is that you would not fall for it, because rapture is about the meek inheriting the earth. The good get taken up to heaven, and then the bad people get left on earth to fight the battle of Armageddon.
That's what they're waiting for, and they're sure they're the saved ones.
But so why do you need to donate money? You're automatically, all you got to do is be good, pray to God, and you go to heaven. So why do they need to... According to him, it was because... Oh, sorry. No, I finished. No,
okay,
go.
According to him, it was very expensive to send all those people out to spread the good news all over the country and print all the pamphlets, all that stuff. So he just needed their money to tell and warn people so that they would be able to be saved. Right. That's what it was. It's the same grift all the time, over and over again. And it's the same thing for, like my grandfather being an Episcopal priest. I didn't realize it till I grew up, but literally everything that my grandparents ever took me to do was paid for by donations from the church.
Yes, yeah.
And it's disgusting to me to think that that's actually like very griftery behavior. So I'm kind of grossed out by it now, actually.
Well, if you think about it, it's actually kind of like the church's form of taxation. So it's a little bit like, if you, like, by American standards, because it doesn't work like this in Australia, but take American standards. Let's say you live in a small town, okay? Your police force is just a sheriff's department. You don't have a state-run police force or anything like that, right? You're in a small town. There's only about 5,000 people in it. So you've got a sheriff's department of, 20, a head sheriff and 20 deputies or something or other. Now, all of that is paid by taxation to give you your law enforcement. And in a way, the church kind of works the same way, as in, this is your local church with your local, preacher, priest, padre, whatever you want to call them. And that's their form of taxation.
Well, you know what would be great,
you know what I mean?
Is if we could actually tax our churches, because they are tax exempt,
I agree.
and they take all that money in. They're not supposed to preach any political stuff in order to keep that. They're not supposed to tell people how to vote or anything like that, but that doesn't stop a lot of them. And apparently in our country, nobody really gives a shit about making people pay their fair share when it actually comes from religion. Yeah. And it's depressing. It's very depressing. People could open up a church and then, they're tax exempt. They could preach anything. It's just pay your damn taxes.
Well, the other thing too,
everybody needs to contribute.
I agree.
People can't be given to the government and to the church. and the church has got everything and pays nothing. That's ridiculous.
I know. It's
not like we're back in the day when they were the only source of comfort and aid to people who were struggling in their little town. You know?
Yes.
So.
And it's a bit like they say, the Scouts don't, they're a youth group. They don't pay tax. And it's like, yeah, they don't, but they're contributing to society. Does the church contribute to society? Well, to those people who belong to it. But the problem is, for the Scouts, they don't pay tax because they're buying canoes, one hall where they meet, their uniforms and everything are tax-free and all this sort of stuff. But what they're not doing is investing in apartment complexes. They're not buying real estate. Do you know what I mean? They're not trading
they don't
on
have gold all over their houses.
They're not trading on the fucking stock market. I mean, that's the difference, I think, when it comes to those social groups and churches. But,
I think if people want to have faith for something, that's great, but just try to keep it in your church and out of my face. Yeah, because I don't like to be prophesized to.
I'm not one of those people who, I condemn religion all the time, but I'm kind of doing it half tongue-in-cheek. I would never want to live in a world where religion was banned, or anything like that. I would never want to live in a Germany of the 1930s or a Soviet Union, of the 1920s, where basically religion was banned. Okay, so I wouldn't want that sort of thing. But at the same time, what I do not like is some religions which are obviously purely businesses. Scientology. Oh, did I just say that?
Hey, they bought practically a whole town near me.
Yes.
How ironically, the hell... Clearwater.
Clearwater. How the hell do they qualify as tax exemption? I agree with Germany when it comes to groups like the Scientologists. And that is that it's not illegal to be a Scientologist, but it's illegal to practice the business practices of Scientology. Right, in Germany, right? So if you want to call yourself a Scientologist, go for it. German government's not going to stop you doing that. But if you want to start charging people money to go on these courses and or charging people money to have what are these fucking tin cans? It's like water dividing rods that they hang on to see how many alien DNA molecules are left inside them, and all this sort of stuff. Right. That's different. No, you can't do that. And if you try to do that, you will go to jail.
Interesting.
And it brings up an interesting point, actually, in regards to German laws and a link to Australia. Australia has put up to Parliament a new law to ban Nazi symbolism. It will become illegal. Yeah. So basically, if you go on a demonstration and you carry a swastika, you will be arrested. Right, so it should pass. I don't see any reasons why it don't. But there is some controversy about it, and that is from
the Nazis.
Well, no. Actually, well, yes, but from actually quite legitimate people, like for instance, museums. How do they cope with this? Because we don't want to destroy history. We need to keep it there, right, and stuff like that. Also, real collectors of historical artifacts. People could collect, let's say, German medals from the Second World War. Doesn't mean they're a Nazi. They may be a very progressive thinking person, but they just happen to be fascinated by history.
Keep them in your drawer or display in your home somewhere where other people are not affected by it.
That's exactly right. So the whole idea is that, yes, you can own them. No, you can't pin them on your chest and walk down the street. And that's exactly right. And it's like museum. I'm sure museums will actually get a special compensation for this sort of stuff, So
I'm sure they will. That's not like they're displaying it because they're encouraging it. They're displaying it to tell you history, and that's a different thing to me.
Exactly.
As long as the history is written the right way, and not full of bullshit. Like apparently all the history I learned growing up about our country was, and I recognized that when I got older. So I also realize everybody around me is cringy as fuck now because I'm so appalled by disparaging comments made about because this actually happened the other day. Somebody in the car with me stopped at a stoplight. I was driving, and there was a homeless woman who was probably in her 20s or 30s, and she had walked right in front of the truck because it was like as soon as I'd stopped, and she walked around the other side on the passenger side, and all of a sudden the other person goes, "You had money for hair dye." Now this woman had about 2.5 inches of growth out on her hair from that purple. Okay. And I turned around and looked at them because I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And they were like, what? And I said, that's really gross. I was like, I can't believe you would say something like that, honestly, about a person. And they were like, well, priorities. Please don't be this person, people. I'm like, they are judging people based on a snap judgment based on a person's appearance and making a judgment about how they don't have good priorities and they're homeless because of it or something, because they spent money on hair dye. Now, I put color in my hair all the time. You know, I change my hair color all the time.
Yeah.
And, so I understand about blowing out.
I used to have a blonde. No, don't worry. I used to have. That came out wrong. I was about to say he's been married to a blonde, but I know. I get. Anyway. Yes. Sorry. I'll shut up.
It's okay.
That came out so wrong. So
because I do it, I understand how long it takes to grow out to a kind of length, and it was probably 4 or 5 months of growth on her hair. And I said to them, they were like, "Don't tell me what to say," and I said, "I won't." Oh, they were like, I can say whatever I want. I'm sorry, my brain. I can say whatever I want. And I said, of course you can, but I would hope that you wouldn't do that, make disparaging comments about somebody who's in need. I said, you don't know anything about what has happened to that woman in the last 5 months since she dyed her hair. Her entire life could have fucking fallen apart. And here you are making judgments. I said, if you don't want to give her any money, then don't. I said, but if you're in the car with me, please do not disparage people like that. I said, because I don't want to hear it. And
I agree. I agree. But it's like every homeless person I've ever seen has a mobile phone. However, I understand how and why. I don't condemn them for it. It's like sort of saying, how dare that homeless person wear trousers?
I mean, it's like on the street.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like, what do you mean? Like, how dare they actually wear shoes? Really? Yeah. Really?
Well, I mean, his clothes look too clean. I'm not going to give him any money. It's like, why do you think these people end up out here looking dirty? Because you guys decide that if they need something, they wouldn't look like that. They would be dirtier. And I'm just like, what in the fuck is happening? I realized I'm moving further and further away from values that some of the older people around me don't have, and I'm realizing it, and I'm like, holy shit. It's like, I don't know that I want to be in this.
No, but I had this discussion with a friend. Actually, this is really interesting that you talk about this, because I had a discussion with a friend, and we were talking about this exact same thing, actually, about how I am noticing very much people changing their attitudes, where they are now to where they were when I knew them as a teenager, for argument's sake, or how I knew them when they were 30. And it reminded me so much of an episode of Here's Lucy, where they did this song called The Generation Gap. And it was these different, they had one which was meant to be modern times, like the late 1960s, I think. And then they had like the 1940s. And then another one was set in the 1920s. And they're all singing this song. But it's kind of true. I mean, even there, an American bloody comedy show from the late 1960s, even they realised that ideology changes. It doesn't stay static. And so, no, I think it's good. I think it's good that, that we look at old ways and we say, no, that's wrong. No, that's wrong.
My problem with it is that as I realize it from people around me, it shocks me and I'm grossed out.
Yes.
But society is moving forward, even if it's a lot more slowly than a lot of people would like. Unfortunately, the fast ones have to drag the slow ones behind. And until we could start getting new generations of people, honestly, into our country, because I see with each progressive generation, society is becoming more and more open to doing the things I think that would benefit everybody in the country, as opposed to just white people in affluent areas. The kids that I know have grown up without putting any judgment or any thought into their friends being pansexual or anything, and I think it's fantastic the way they accept each other as they are. And I hope soon that everybody in our country or on earth will be like that. I have a lot of faith in these generations that are coming up, and I know a lot of people say that they are, I don't know what I was going to say. I'm sorry, I forgot. But I think a lot of people make fun of them and tease them for things. But everything they've teased us for, the boomers created us, Gen X, and they were so into greed and money at the time and working and all that stuff that a lot of us kids got left at home as latchkey kids or different things like that. We had a different kind of life than they did growing up. And we're the result of our parents putting more emphasis on money and professions and stuff, I think, than being a parent. But see, now in my generation, I think all of us want to make sure that we don't raise our children in a lot of ways the way the generation before raised us. Because we are moving on as a society, and I'm just really happy to see it.
I think that's the thing you see, because I think our parents were either baby boomers or they were, I don't even think there's a name for, I think, before baby boomers. Anyway. Well,
I think that was the greatest generation.
Oh, the greatest generation. The greatest generation.
And I have an issue with, but okay.
Well, so do I. I'm really not too sure that Adolf Hitler was part of the greatest generation. You know what I mean? I'm not. I get it.
Over here,
I think that's also a very American term. I'm not too sure. But I get it. I mean, I get it. But anyway, but our parents are generally either from the greatest generation, just to use the term, or they're baby boomers. All right, you and I are Generation X. Yeah. So the thing is that I think for the baby boomers, they were very much, they'd come out of some pretty hard times. You had the Depression, the World Depression that went into the Second World War. It was kind of all about security and wealth. It was about, and it was also the equalisation of society. I mean, they did have their fights. Now, race may not have been part of that just yet, but definitely the class structures started to fall apart for the baby boomer generation. I mean, they were the ones that started to pull apart the idea of to the manor born. So every generation, even when we look at them, we sort of say, oh, I don't like what you stand for. But they still did make impact in changing things from the generation before them.
Absolutely. Everybody does.
And the thing
so
is
as long as we don't destroy the planet, there is some hope for us.
That's exactly right. I see some, what I would call, let's say, Gen X people in my life who are still complaining about, let's say a lot of the modern culture, which is around today. And they're sort of saying, safe space. What do they need a safe space in school? Kids should just suck it up on the playground like we did. And it's a little bit like, yeah, and how many of those people slit their wrists, took pills, or blew their brains out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, back in the days in Australia when you could do that, you can't really do that anymore.
Yeah, right.
But you know what I mean?
Thank goodness for you.
Right, okay. But it's, so why are you complaining about that? Why are you, it's like, oh, safety belts. Safety, I mean, it's a bit like, I don't need a safety belt. Well, okay, fair enough, but what about the kids in the back seat? You're making a decision for them. Maybe it'd be nice if they survived the car crash.
I know somebody who wouldn't put one on no matter what, but I taught my son to put it on all the time. And we would tell him, put it on, put it on, put it on. And he wouldn't do it. And then he got pulled over by a cop for not having a seatbelt on.
Oh, okay.
So,
yep.
You know, and then after that, he remembered to do it. I was like, so you can learn things.
Yes. Well, I don't know what the fines are there, but I think it's 3. You only get, I think it's 12 points on an Australian license, and it's a 3-point demerit for not wearing a safety belt, and I think it's a $500 fine, something like that. I don't know what that would be like in America for the same sort of. But that would probably depend on
because
on
I don't
the
have to pay those fines usually.
Yes. Yes.
You know, I also don't text and drive, which is another issue. So I don't, you know.
Oh, that's a big illegal thing here too. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is illegal here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's using a mobile phone too is illegal. Cannot touch your mobile phone once the car starts to move.
I think that's like that in some big cities here too. Ours isn't necessarily like that. You can use hands free.
Oh,
but
okay.
Yeah, you can use hands free, that kind of thing, but you can't be texting with your fingers on your phone and shit when they see you. So you probably shouldn't do that when you're driving anyway.
I can still remember I was on my mobile phone. You know, this is a while ago. I mean, this was 20 years ago. Okay, this is 20 years ago. This is a long time ago, right? And I was on a mobile phone in the car, and I didn't realize there was an unmarked police car behind me, and they pulled me over, and it was actually my birthday. Right, and he goes, and the copper pulled me over, and he goes, you know why I pulled you over? And I said, yeah, I think I know. like I didn't want to give it away, but I said, yeah, I think I know, you know. And he goes, oh, you know, have you got your license and stuff? So I gave him my license, and he had a look at it. He goes, I'm going to have one hell of a birthday present for you, mate.
Oh, Jesus.
Yay! And it was this, and I think 20 years ago it was like $300 on the spot fine, and well, when they say on the spot, you don't pay it on the spot. It means it's issued on the spot.
Right.
That's what on the spot means. You don't. It's not like France. You don't hand money over to the actual police officer.
You do that in France?
Oh, I can't believe they fucking do that. You pay the spot. Yeah, pay it on the spot.
That's crazy. What if you don't have any money?
Well, no, you can pay it later. But
okay.
But
I'm confused by Australia.
Oh no, that's France. In Australia, France, you never do that. Yeah. Oh my God, police officers will not go anywhere near money. It's like no. That's too. No, that's.
I think it happens a lot here, though. I don't think.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. The Australian police force, once they got rid of the New South Wales police. So think of the states, because we have state-based police forces. New South Wales, that's Sydney. Their police force in the 1970s was corrupt as all fuck, but they sacked literally 20% of the officers and started over. And their police force now is actually extraordinarily good. The Queensland police force was not a police force. It was just a mafia fucking organisation. It got sorted out in the 1980s when a certain man called Sir Joe. I'm Sir Joe. Don't you ask me about that. I'll tell you about that. I'm Sir Joe. Sorry, if you're Australian.
I don't know anything about him, so I don't know if that's a good impression or not.
Sir Joe couldn't speak properly. If you thought Trump's speeches were bad, you wanted to listen to a fucking Sir Joe's speech. It was like, well, I'm here to give a speech, and I'd just like to tell you, but before I start, I just want to thank this person, and I want to thank this person, but before I thank this person, do you like my suit? Isn't it a great suit? It was made by, I can't think of their name, so I don't know.
That sounds just like Trump.
Yeah, but absolutely hilarious. And he was very famous because back in he was given a knighthood, right? And he became Sir Joe. As Joe Biotti Peterson was his name, and his wife was Flo Biotti Peterson, and she was most famous for her scone recipe. And it was, oh my God,
I love a good scone.
Oh my God. It's just going back to... I'm boring people with it, because unless you're Australian, you have no idea what I'm talking about. It will make no sense. I'll shut up.
But people from Australia do listen to the show, so...
Yeah, I know.
It's okay for
that's
you to
true.
do that. Everything doesn't have to be from America.
But there's someone in the Ukraine at the moment going, Said, what the fuck are you talking about? I have no fucking. Who is this Sir Joe? I don't. Sorry.
Look him up. Google him.
My accent is just. Don't worry, but I can never resist
ask you
an
to
accent.
Stop trying to do impressions right now. No, I'm kidding.
And I know it's actually. I know technically it's racist and you shouldn't do it. I know I get it, but I just love fucking having the crackers back. To me, it's like karaoke. Even if you're bad, have a go. But I know that it's actually really racist to do impressions, and you shouldn't do it. And I do know that. So I
don't think it's racist to do an impression. It's just painful to listen to a bad impression. That's all.
And that's me.
Don't feel bad about your terrible impressions.
That's me.
I love you for who you are, Warren.
Oh, God.
Not who I want you to be.
Oh my God! Anyway, I don't even know what the hell we were talking about. As we said, we should have renamed this show, but I digress, and I think we've digressed so much.
We might do it.
We might do it because I have no fucking idea what we were talking about. It was. Oh yes, it was. We were talking about how
you said you were boring people. That's why. Sorry.
I bored myself so much.
I'm in a mood, dude.
I know it's all right. but we were talking about. But here are some things for you. But something that happened during the week, of course, was Dr. Zeus, and of course, Mr. Potato Head will now become Potato Head, and of course, Donald Trump Jr. decided to put in an order to his drug dealer because he had to go online to talk about all of this. And did you notice that he held up an image of a Dr. Zeus book, but it was the bilingual version, so he covered bilingual with his hand so no one could see it?
I did not see that.
Apparently there's a photo going around. Yes, it's a little bit like, you can't fool people like that. You know, it's like, geez.
But they try.
But
all the time.
But this thing, I sent Donald Trump a tweet. Donald Trump Jr., I should say, a tweet. And it was, I'm back on Twitter. I'm back, baby. I'm back.
How do you get let back? I can't even get my old account back.
No.
6,000 followers.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. But I hadn't really been on Twitter for a year or more. Even more, 2 years. Really hadn't mucked around with it much. And I just decided over the last couple of... something I'll tell you about that happened in Australia that made me actually go back to Twitter. But I'll get to that in a minute, if I can.
Okay.
It has to do with certain law changes in Australia and an argument with the Australian government and Facebook. And it's a fascinating argument because it may be coming to a country near you. So Australia was a bit of a test case for this. But anyway, so I sent him a tweet, and I said, to paraphrase, he supports all this capitalism. He hates socialism. It's bad. It's capitalism. So why is he complaining about a private business making a business decision about a product that they sell in the free market?
Exactly.
Right? So is Donald Trump Jr. now a socialist? Because he's demanding the government curtail free enterprise.
Yep. It was the Dr. Seuss company that took it off.
That's right.
You know, they said we've decided you're right. This shit's racist.
And it's the same. And it's the same with Potato Head. It's a private business. Well, it's a public business actually, but you know what I mean. It's a business that is making a commercial decision. This is not Joe Biden making this fucking decision. This is a company. And so why does Donald Trump Jr. and also Ben Shapiro, and I still want to ask the question, human or garden gnome? I still don't think the answer's in. Right? I really don't think the answer's in. I swear he does his little podcast and he goes home and his home is a pond and he sits by the pond with a little fishing reel and he puts on the hat and he sits there and he fishes. And then the next day comes around and he goes into the studio, does his podcast, you know. I'm quite convinced he's a garden gnome. He's not a human.
It could be.
But anyway. But it's like, but these guys scream capitalism in the loudest voices. So why?
What are you doing?
Sorry, that
sounded like
Magnum PI. No, it's Magnum PI. Yeah. It's Magnum PI. That was my phone. My text message is Magnum PI, and my phone, when the phone call comes in, that's the Saint. And I hadn't muted it. I know. I'm sorry about that. I
would have charged $2 on my set. I would have. For the time I had to come over there and tell you to turn your damn phone off because you're working. I know I'm a dragon lady. I'm sorry.
No. So,
no,
yes, but anyway.
No one should. So don't make me do it.
All right.
I'm going to gaslight you for my behavior.
I'll be good.
Yes.
I'll be good.
Right. Thank you.
my phone is on mute. Okay. Now, yes. So it's interesting. The week that Ben Shapiro and Donald Trump Jr. officially became socialists. So there you go. Raise your glasses to that. They've just joined the progressive movement. Their Bernie Sanders has 2 new friends.
Oh, yeah, not.
So I know.
They're
I'm
just trying to rile up the people who get upset over things like, a gender-neutral potato that you can change sexes on,
I know. Yeah.
Because obviously the potato is a guy, right? He comes with all this. Oh, wait, you can put the lady lips on there. So maybe not. So I think they were disturbed that you didn't have 2 different potatoes. Well, and that you can switch them back and forth.
I understand. I understand Ben Shapiro takes it very personally. He
so big.
And Potato Head are about the same size. I mean, you have to remember, when Ben Shapiro plays with a Potato Head doll, it's like a life-size fucking doll he's working with, right? Okay? I mean, Potato Head to Ben Shapiro is a set doll.
Ventriloquist dummies.
It's a set doll. It's the same size, right? Okay.
Ew. I wouldn't know.
Ben, have you seen... I'm sure. He could, what's that big stream site? Pornhub. He'd go to Pornhub, and I'm sure there are videos there of Ben Shapiro having sets with Potato Head because they're the same size. They work really well. But anyway. Anyway. Sorry.
Hey, are you watching anything that's exciting and you're enjoying?
In TV, absolutely. Yeah. I have fallen in love. Oh, well, one, I just finished watching, but I fell asleep, so I'm going to have to rewatch the last episode. The final of Vikings, the very final series. Absolutely, I've loved that show. I mean, it's been running for, 10 years now or something. And it's just, I mean, it's fantastic.
When that show came out, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go for it. No, go for it.
I was just going to say, when that show came out, I thought it was going to be like a documentary series, the way they were, and I thought that was and so when I turned it on, and it was scripted, I got mad and turned it off, and I actually haven't really watched a single episode after that. So I do want to go back and watch it, because I understand now what it is, and I'm not going to be disappointed, but I didn't want to watch it when I saw it.
It's so
I
good.
like to have tantrums.
No,
sorry.
It's so good. It's so good, and it's such a shame that it has now finished. And no, it is not coming back. It has actually finished. For
I hate
people
when my shows end. I love them so much, and then they're gone, and then you just were like,
well, I still think
anything else to replace you with.
One of the best science fiction shows in years that came out of Netflix, which was called Zoo. And it finished after 3 seasons, and they ended on a cliffhanger.
Right?
Yeah, they finished on a cliffhanger. How do you do this, Netflix? Anyway.
They probably didn't know they weren't going to pick them back up when they wrote it. So a lot of shows now will, every season, wrap things up in a way that if it did have to be the end, that maybe more people would be satisfied. But some people still haven't gotten that, I think The Magicians did that,
Yes.
And I loved that show. I was really sad when it ended. So silly TV, Sometimes you just want to watch something that makes you laugh and not think about real things. So magic and comedy always goes.
Well, I know when Melbourne had its last lockdown, which was a month ago, which was just a week long, was because I think we had 13 or 14 cases. So they put the city into lockdown. Now we're back at 0 cases again, and life's all good and all the rest of it. But Australia and New Zealand, how to defeat COVID without a vaccine. But that's another story. When I was in there, I finally got to watch season 2 of Das Boot from Germany, because I watched season 1 and season 2 was available, but I'd never seen it, even though it came out about a year ago. And so I watched season 2. I loved it, but it finished also. It also finished because I know there's meant to be a season 3 coming, but the way they finished that was they could end the show right there, or they could go on to another show. Like the ending was, like you said, was done in a way where they could go in either direction. You know, it would be fine. But the show I've absolutely fallen in love with is For All Mankind on Amazon Prime. If you love anything space done, like have we talked about this?
I think you know how I feel about space. And I've worked on a lot of space shows.
Yes. Well, this is basically, imagine the year is 1969. This is where it's the very first episode. And suddenly the news comes out. The Soviets have landed on the moon.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
No.
Okay. This is an alternate history or an alternate universe that what would have happened if the Soviets got there first. And then the second person to land on the moon, they put up their visor to take the cap. So it was done really, really well. So you've got the first moon landing, and it's a Soviet, all right? So it's a cosmonaut.
Right.
And then the Americans are there sort of saying, right, we've got the Apollo mission. We've got to get, Apollo 11 has got to, we've got to actually get Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin onto the moon. And because, we can't have them keep landing people. And suddenly the news comes out. The Soviets have landed a second cosmonaut on the moon. And they take the photo, like as they lift the visor, and it's a woman. Mm-hmm. The second person on the world is a woman. And then suddenly the vice president, with the president, comes down with an instruction to NASA. All right, we're going to change this whole thing. Basically, we want women astronauts, and we've got to now get a one-up on the Russians. Black women astronauts.
Hey, there you go. Why not? They sent people to the moon. Right. They might as well get to go.
I know. And so it all now changes. And because the astronauts themselves are women, now suddenly the scientists who are women are coming out from behind the shadows, and they're being given jobs in command. Like flight controllers are now women. Right, not
this
just
sounds
men.
Like Russian propaganda to me.
You could see it like that. I've got a friend who sort of says, it's just woke fucking television. I don't like woke television. But the thing is that it's a really good...
Nobody likes white television.
No, not white. I know. Woke, I know. But it's... I know, you're just having the shit out of me. But
I'm in a mood. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. But I love the idea of this alternate history. What if? And it's... but it's also great because the Cold War isn't ending... Because the space race is now going, we're now into the 1980s, and they're now onto the second edition of the US space shuttle. They're now arming it because they're now putting military bases onto the moon. It's a really interesting show, and I really thoroughly recommend people watch it. It's not woke television. It's just the idea of an alternate history. And, anyway, I'll shut up.
Cool. I love alternative history shows, honestly. Yeah. I think they're interesting. One of the things I've just gotten into, and I didn't realize how much I would like this show. I've literally laughed out loud, like in a sense where it just kind of flies out of me at certain things that happen on it. It's a dark, twisted comedy show, and I think everybody should watch it if you get a chance. It's called Resident Alien, and it is on Sci-Fi. I think Wednesday nights. It could be a different night, though, so check where you guys have it. But it's from a Dark Horse comic, and it's about an alien who he was coming to Earth to drop off a bomb to explode and kill us all. But he crashed and had to pretend to be a human while he looks for the pieces of this thing so that he can put it back together, finish his mission, and go home. And it's at times shockingly terrifying, but then it's so funny. And the guy who plays the alien, I only really know him from this. Before that was that movie with Heath Ledger, A Knight's Tale.
Oh yeah,
he was one of the squires that was always threatening to beat people up. So I remembered him from that, but I didn't recognize him at first. But God, he's amazing at this. It's so funny to watch him be this alien trying to mimic human behavior in his skin that he has. It's pretty funny. So I do suggest everybody watches it because I can't wait for another episode. I think I've watched 4 episodes now. I think that's how far we are into the season.
Okay.
And I hope the show never ends because honestly, I'm really enjoying it. I need things to make me laugh, but also, I like twisted, creepy things. So it works for me.
Well, the other one too, to go back to not my ringtone, but my message tone, season 3 of the reimagining of Magnum P.I., of course, is now out.
Yes.
Yes, we're actually...
I watch it every week. It's so bad.
What? I love it.
Dude, the writing is so awful. It's so contrived.
I will give you that.
It's just bad.
I'm
not saying you shouldn't love the show. The show, I love it. I watch it every week. But the entire time I'm watching it, I'm going, oh my God, this writing is so bad. I'm like, you guys are terrible writers. And I haven't heard anybody yet that would tell me I was wrong.
No, you're right. I think when you compare it...
It's just mindless fun.
When you compare it to the original, I would argue that this show really, really works off its stunts and special effects and fast-paced action, where the original show actually worked off the character development and the writing. The original one was very much about this group of friends who were very different, but somehow or other, they worked together. The 4 of them actually kind of blended somehow or other. And
he was in the military with the other guys, and then Higgins just had to go along. So
yes, but
I like how though in the new one that they changed Higgins to a woman because I like Juliet and I like the addition of a strong character. And man, can that woman fight? I think she might have been a stunt man or stunt woman before that.
No. She was in the Tudors. Do you remember the HBO series The Tudors? She's been in lots of British television.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We weren't sure because I don't know if she's using like Krav Maga or whatever, but damn.
That doesn't mean that she's not trained in something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, I'm sure she is.
Yeah. No. But she's an actress. She's an actress by profession. She's not a stunt person who's made the move across or something like that.
Because I hadn't really seen her in anything over here, but I don't think I've seen The Tudors yet. I do love a great historical drama. I love that. But there's so many of them out there, it's hard to sit through all of them.
Well,
and give it, a short amount of time.
A lot of people, I think, had a problem with the Tudors because they sort of said, Henry VIII, but he's really attractive and he's really slim. This doesn't make sense. Because everyone thinks of the big, fat, bloated, diseased Henry VIII. But of course,
later.
That was in his last days of life. That's not what he was like for most of you. He was the Brad Pitt of his day. A lot of, I hate to use the line that's always given to my kid. A lot of people don't know that. But it's like, I'm Michael Caine. A lot of people don't know that.
What did I say about impressions? I'm not.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Warren, stop it.
Stop apologizing to me for me trying to control you. Don't do that.
But it's a fantastic show. It's a bit slow. I mean, in the sense that it's 4 seasons long, and I mean, you literally get like 15 years in the first 3 seasons, and then you get like 30 years in the last season. So it's a bit... Right. It was almost like they kind of just decided, we've got to finish this show off. So we're not going to do a 5th and 6th season. So they kind of compress everything down. But it's It's very good. I mean, it's a one if you like that, sort of European medieval royalty, type TV show. The shows like The White Queen, The White Princess.
I loved that. Yep, loved it. Elizabeth, all the movies and stuff that they had are little mini series kind of.
Elizabeth.
No. I watched it. I watch all of them. I'm not saying it was fantastic, but I watch usually a lot of historical dramas.
Oh, yes.
I like them.
Yeah.
I even like the stupid ones like Rain that used to be on the CW here, and it was just really
Rain. Is that about Mary Queen of Scots?
Mary Stuart.
Mary Stuart,
yes. But in France.
But when she was in exile, in France,
yes. And I really enjoyed the show, even though it was really just made for teens in a sense. But sometimes I want to watch.
But she's this raven-haired woman with an American accent, and she's meant to be this fucking Scottish queen living in exile in France. I mean,
it's just a TV show.
I know it's just a TV show, but that was my problem.
Not a documentary.
I know, but that was my problem with the two Elizabeth movies. Is they're fantastic films. They're really well made. They look amazing. They look beautiful, but historically, they are just fucking terrible distortions of history. They're so inaccurate. They are so inaccurate. When they do that.
I think that is a disservice to society in general, because a lot of people, as we've seen here in our country, don't actually go research something. If they see it in a movie or in some video in a place that they like, that stuff just becomes the truth.
Yeah.
And you can never change it. So it doesn't matter how many times you tell them that's not what it was. It doesn't matter. They still don't believe you. So it's crazy.
Well, there were things in Elizabeth where dates were changed. Like they would have an event, but they would put it in the wrong date. And I mean, as in like it would be off by 5-6 years. So this event supposedly altered the way she thought. Well, that's ridiculous, because in reality, that event happened after this event. And so, they play with history to create a narrative. They will make a character gay if the character was in fact straight, or they'll make a straight person gay simply to run a narrative. They will kill people when they didn't really die, or they did all sorts of shit like that in Elizabeth, which was really disappointing. It made a great story if it just had have been someone writing the story of a monarch, right? In a mythical country. That would have been fine, but they supposedly were selling this as an historical drama, and that was, anyway.
Events have been changed for creative license, basically.
Yeah.
That didn't work for my script, so I changed it.
Yes.
So I don't get that, because if you can't fit the actual actions into your script that you want to describe in a way that's accurate, I think that's really dishonest. I think you're really, like I said, doing a disservice to the country. And it bothers me a lot, actually, when they, just for the sake of the creativity or how it doesn't fit in. It's like, if you can't fit it in, don't do it then. If you can't find a story within there to write without telling people the things that are wrong, then don't do it. Pick a different story. Well, that's how I feel about that.
Well, it's like the movie Braveheart, okay? With Mel Gibson, right? But it's like, oh, I know. Forget about the fact that the man.
I love the movie, even though it was stupid, but I hate him so much.
But remember, this was made in the days when he was seen as a good guy, not the asshole that we know he actually is.
Oh, that's why I used to watch it.
That's exactly right. So, now if you ask a Scot about that movie, they love it. Oh, this Scot is a statement of who we are as Scotland. If you ask an English person about it, they will say it's the most historically inaccurate piece of garbage we have ever seen. And that's the problem, because that movie is all based on emotion. It's not historically accurate in any shape or form. There is nothing historically accurate.
Did he really impregnate the French princess who married, the son of the king? Did he really do that? I don't think so.
And also, like this thing about, I'm going to bed your wife, because I'm the laird of like these kind of some of these laws, like that's not what that fucking rebellion was about, right? And also,
but that was the personal side of his story during the rebellion.
Yeah, but none of that actually happened to him, like to William Wallace.
Right.
None of that actually happened. It was all fucking made up for the film.
Of course, they had to make people feel sad for him and then watch him rise up. To take revenge on the people who killed his wife.
And the problem is that Scotland, through all of that part of its history, was very much in a state of civil war, in the sense that large amounts of the lowlands supported the English.
Because they were close to the border.
It was almost like. If you think about it, Scotland was like Vietnam. You almost had North and South Vietnam fighting each other, and then the Americans and the Chinese would jump in, and it's so much more fucking complicated.
I think I could understand why the people closer to the border with England would be more in line with them, because if England decides to invade, they're taking their shit first.
Well,
so they have more to lose sometimes than the people further away. This
is true.
So I get it. In a way,
I once saw a documentary which talked about I think it was the Battle of not Bannockburn, but it was one of the English-Scottish fights. One of the Battle of Culloden. Yes, Battle of Culloden.
Oh, yeah, Culloden Field. Yeah, absolutely.
And they were talking about it, and it was made by an independent Scottish company, and it was probably shown on ITV or something like that. And anyway, but they were trying to recreate the battle. So they had all these clansmen in their kilts and their shields, standing there with painted faces, chanting the British. And then it crossed to the British Army. The British Army had tanks and helicopters, and it's like, what the fuck? Right? What the literal fuck? And then it would cross to the Scottish, and they'd be historically dressed, cross back to the English, and then you'd see a jet fighter fly over. It's like, what?
Oh my God.
But it was because they were trying to make a statement of the power of England, over Scotland. And I get what they're trying to do, but it's like... but it's like clearly this is not a documentary. This is an argumentative piece of literature. This is not a fucking documentary, This is a personal opinion of the writer of this documentary. But the problem is, well, first of all, I got no bone in this fight between Scotland and England, so I don't want to take sides in it. But and the other thing too is that Karen Gillan will never follow me back on Twitter if I ever say anything bad about Scotland. Do you know what I mean? So, and the other thing too, I think as an Australian, especially with the Republican debate, which always raises its head in Australia. That's Republican Australia, not Republican American. It's not the same thing.
So there are Democrats or liberals here.
So it doesn't mean as Republican in Australia and liberal in Australia do not mean the same thing. So it can get very confusing. So I kind of side with the Scots in a way. I kind of get where they're coming from. Follow me back, Karen. Follow me back, Karen. I'm going to boost it. Go Scotland. Go Scotland. Go Scotland. Yeah. Go Scotland. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
I actually pretty much take the Scots side too.
Sorry.
I take the Scots side too, because I'm part Scottish.
Yeah.
And then I take the Welsh side on certain things, but then I also take Irish. So I'm just going to go ahead and just claim all those people and ask them to stop fighting themselves, please.
So basically your whole idea is I'm going to support anyone that's Celtic and fuck the Anglos.
I do. Thank you. Thank you for understanding me as a person. I appreciate that.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't enjoy the oppression that the English have put on a lot of people, and it's just gross.
It is. I mean, we've all grown up in countries which were, bits of old. Well, not so much you, because your independence was so earlier in the day. But as Australians have grown up in, it's British territory. I mean, Australia. I still remember on Twitter, I had an American once telling me that, how do you live in a British colony? So I don't live in a fucking British colony, mate. He goes, and he goes, yeah, but Britain is your government. It's like, no, they're fucking not. Britain has nothing to do
No,
with
that's
the Australian...
Canada.
Yeah, that's Canada. In fact, Canada does technically, legally, have closer ties to the British government than Australia does.
Yeah, they do.
In 1901, Australia broke all fucking contact. Like, we still have representatives of the Queen in Australia. We still use the Crown. The head of state is still the Queen of England. But they have no say over anything at all.
Yeah. That's exactly
so,
right. It's like us looking at the Queen over there going, we don't really care. Because, Americans, we don't really care about anybody else but ourselves. So.
But, oh, my God, I couldn't convince this guy at all. He was quite convinced that the British Commonwealth, I'll rephrase that, he believed the Commonwealth was actually still the British Empire. Like, he couldn't understand the difference between the modern Commonwealth and the British Empire. Like, he just
because he's an ignorant person.
Yes. He probably voted for Donald Trump.
History.
He probably voted for Donald Trump, I think. I'll tell you what, should we take a quick break? And
sure.
And then should we come back? Because I noticed my delivery has just been put down on the...
Oh, well, we don't have to. We can wrap this up and I will watch that television.
It's one box. I just don't want to sit down on the fucking street. That's all.
Well, let's take a break and you go get your stuff, dude. I can get another drink because I need.
So if we do that, and
obviously,
I can refill my my drink, and because there was a couple of other things I wanted to ask you about actually. So
okay. Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Okay.
It'll be however long for us. Will be a second for you guys.
That's right. It's timey-wimey stuff. So just remember,
it is.
Fezzes are cool.
So are bow ties.
That's exactly right. I said that the other day in the office, and I came back to my fucking desk, and there was a picture of a fez pinned up above my desk.
Lord. Well, you deserve it.
Anyway.
All right, let's take our break.
All right, we'll be right back.
Okay.
And we are back. Yes, the TARDIS has landed. Wouldn't it be? Did you imagine, like they land on Mars?
It's smaller on the outside.
Wouldn't it be cool, if like they, because I know everyone's going Mars crazy at the moment, after the landing, the other day. Wouldn't it be cool if the first humans to land on Mars, if we had the Eagle has landed? Can you imagine if they actually named the actual craft the TARDIS? It's like, the TARDIS has landed.
I would hope that they would be smart enough to do that. I really do.
And it'd be so cool, wouldn't it? I mean, it really
sorry.
would.
Yeah. And I'm a huge geek, so...
But then I still reckon the first person to step foot on Mars then should put a fez on and put a bow tie around the spacesuit.
Now you're just being silly.
And now I'm just being silly? Yeah, right. Fair enough.
No, actually, I love bow ties. So I do, and it's probably Matt Smith's fault. So
it is. He was a great doctor, wasn't he? I mean,
I loved him so much.
He really was. I mean, for me, there was always this difficulty that the older I got, the doctors were getting younger. Like there was this curve, where it was sort of getting to the extreme with Matt Smith, because he was so young.
Yeah.
But but that was only because we were just
charming, though.
Oh, he is.
Charming.
I love him. I love him. I love him now, and I was always torn. People say, "Who is your favourite Doctor?" It's like, "Who is your favourite Bond?" We've had this, discussion before, and for me, who is your favourite Sheena? That's one that I can never argue with anyone because everyone always goes, "Who?"
He's like all of them.
It's like, yeah, that's my answer. All of them. Yeah. Oh my God, there's only one left too. It's fuck. Oh my God. But anyway, but yes, we had the discussion who was the best Bond. Don't need to go through that. I'm right, you're wrong. Sorry. No. The world agrees with you, actually, not with me. So don't worry. You're on the winning...
because we know a hot man when we see one.
Yeah.
Okay?
You're on the winning...
I thought the others were great, too. I just liked him more.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Daniel Craig, for the people who didn't know. He's my favorite Bond. To me, since Roger Moore or Sean Connery in it, had a different time period. But in this instance, now, He's such a perfect Bond. He combines the suave, debonair charm, and also he will kick your ass, and it looks like he will kick your ass. That's not what Roger Moore looked like. Roger Moore did not look like he was going to kick your ass.
Problem with Roger Moore
he was going to sleep with your woman, but he was not going to kick your ass.
That was the problem. I've heard a lot of people say that the problem was that Roger Moore was too good looking and too debonair, actually, to play Bond. He was... I mean, I get the idea of why he was cast as Bond, especially coming out, because he played Simon Templar, of course.
Right.
We've got to mention that. Just for me, is Roger Moore the Saint, or is he Bond? Like, I always see him as the Saint more than the Bond. But the problem is Bond in Gucci loafers. I don't know. You know what I mean? Roger Moore.
He has an image to uphold,
Yeah, it's where Daniel. I always get his name wrong because it's not Craig. Daniel Craig. To never quite pronounce it. Yeah, to never quite get that right. It's like I always muck up the vice president's name. I don't intentionally mean to do it, but I always do it. But he's got that. It's like Bond had never been seen before wearing t-shirt and shorts and flip-flops, as you call them.
Yeah. I think it's modernized it, and I love it.
It has modernized it where,
he still looks fantastic in a tux.
Well, that's the thing. Pierce Brosnan he'd still go to the beach in a suit. So...
Yeah. I don't want to talk about him as Bond. I'm sorry.
You don't?
No, I did not like him as Bond in any way. The only thing good that came out of him being Bond was a really great video game. It was probably one of the best Bond games ever. Okay? That's the only redeeming quality I see in him. I love Pierce Brosnan. I love him now. When he was on Remington Steele, everybody was saying, oh, he should be Bond, he should be Bond. Yeah. But when he became Bond, to me, he was weak. And I didn't feel it from him at all. I just thought he wasn't a right fit. So I don't know if he chose to leave or they...
Oh, no, they sacked him. He was meant to do one more film. They sacked him. Which he was terrible. Okay, all right. He was... See, the thing was that he was meant to actually be Bond after Roger Moore. And the problem was that the story goes that the company that had the rights that he'd signed to with Remington Steele had agreed to let him go and then called him back literally at the 11th hour for one more season. So he then couldn't do Bond. And so that's when they got
scheduling conflicts.
Yes, and I've forgotten now the name of the actor that they got to play Bond for the next two films. I'm getting old.
I don't know.
Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot. But anyway, so he did it for two films. But the thing is that Timothy Dalton played Bond for two films. The funny thing about and then they brought in Brosnan. Brosnan was meant to be a new imagining of Bond. Yes, he was less sexist. He was less womanizing, but he was a fucking killing machine. They reckon Pierce Brosnan kills more people in his 4 movies than all the other Bond films combined. Right?
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, so, although maybe it could be argued that he was kind of the video generation, the video gameplay generation. But the thing is that Timothy Dalton is actually probably the closest to Fleming's Bond, in the books. Because I think I told you I started reading all the books. I think we even mentioned this. Started reading the books. And I'm quite convinced that Timothy Dalton is the closest match to what you get in the books. Like, if you've never read a James Bond novel by Ian Fleming, watch the two... watch the 2 movies with Timothy Dalton. That's about as close as you'll get to the books. Those 2 films. Yeah. But the books don't translate to movies. Because the way Fleming writes, he's so obsessed with detail. He will describe the meal the Bond is eating. Okay?
Right.
That can take 15 pages to just describe the meal. He'll talk about fitting a suit, but he's so obsessed with things, with objects, you know, like the things that make Bond. And then Bond will get into a situation, and that'll take 3 pages. But by getting the gear, getting dressed in the wetsuit, you know, to make the swim out to Scaramanga's Island, the swim. Oh, actually, he's not quite good. The swim is fucking brilliant writing. I love that. He gets attacked by an octopus, and it's actually really good. But the thing is that I suppose what I'm trying to say is he'll spend 20 pages describing getting dressed for the mission, and 3 pages doing the mission. You know what I mean? It's
right. I think maybe that was because he really wanted to have the reader feel like they were him in a sense. If he describes everything he does in those moments, it can maybe help people kind of like be in the book in a way. Like you're right there with him with everything he's doing. So in a way, I think that's very interesting. I think, yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing. But in a sense, the book version of Bond is actually just Ian Fleming expressing himself. I mean, everything that Bond likes and does is what Ian Fleming liked to do, you know. The clothes he wears is what Ian Fleming wore. His view about America was it's a very weird viewpoint. It's like James Bond loves America, but doesn't have a lot of time for Americans. It's a really weird sort of thing. Like, he loves the country if you took the people out of it. It's really right. It's really freaking weird.
I feel that way
too. But this is a very, this is a very late 40s, 1950s Englishman's view, of the world. It's fascinating, but it's interesting if you read, my other favourite, which is, of course, Leslie Charteris, who, of course, wrote all the Saint novels. When you read those, there's almost no detail given to the stuff, like the clothes, the food, the cars. None of that is mentioned. There will just, it will just be like, it will be, Templar grabbed his sports coat and ran from the room. If you're reading that written about Bond by Fleming, it will be Bond grabbed his, and then there will be a 2-page explanation of the sports coat. Right?
Everybody as a writer has their style of writing, and whatever it is that you see them focusing most on, obviously, is the stuff they want you to understand the most. So maybe with the Simon Templar books, maybe that writer thought, let me describe this in a way that puts more into the action and allows the reader to actually not tell them too much, but allow them to create their own imagery in their head. Sometimes if you write out so many details, it's because you want the reader to know these are the things I want you to look at this person through. This defines this person. And if they don't, another one says, this, I write like this because I'm more defined like this person. I have, and every single writer, every single one, I don't care who they are, has made a character for themselves and put it in a show or a script or a movie or whatever. Every single one. Something that represents them in the way they wish they had been, the way they'd like to be perceived.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah.
I have one. So I think it's, you put yourself in a place where you feel strong and, just a powerful person when you put your character in this place that you want to be. It's interesting to me, actually. Well, the whole process of people's different styles.
There's an interesting story. I remember hearing it once told that when they were making the Return of the Saint on British television, they were filming in the south of France, and Ian Ogilvy, who played the Saint, or Simon Templar, in that incarnation of the Saint on British television, he was there with the I think that unit director, and there's a few other people. I think the producer was there. There was a few people, and they were having dinner down in the south of France. And the very famous British actor, Oliver Reed was in the same a restaurant, right? And he came up drunk as a skunk, as Oliver Reed, like always was. and they're there, and he goes, what are you doing here? Yeah. And well, we're filming The Saint. Oh, The Saint, I love The Saint. Well, if you love The Saint, it's, Leslie's here. Leslie, this is Leslie. This is Leslie Charteris. This is the author. He's with us. He's acting as an advisor. And, he goes, I love the books. I read them as a child. I grew up on them. Well, you're so wonderful. We're going to become blood brothers. And he grabbed one of the steak knives from the table, and he went to grab his hand to slice his hand open, right?
Oh,
to literally,
shit.
And apparently Leslie Charteris literally just... Who was about 70 or, years old by this stage, right?
God.
Had literally just fallen back in his seat going, fuck, protect me, Jesus Christ, what is this guy?
Seriously?
You imagine a drunk Oliver Reed with a steak knife in his hand. You imagine, right? Okay. And,
yeah.
And they calmed him all down, and all the rest of it, and it was all fine. But they said, but here's the difference between Charteris and the Saint and Fleming and Bond. And that is that Fleming probably would have said, all right, let's do it. Where Charteris, no. It's like Charteris was writing a mythical character where Fleming was writing about himself, or at least what he wanted himself to be seen as. And it's fascinating.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah,
it's absolutely fascinating. Yeah. So I don't know what we were talking about before.
And listen, I'm going to tell you, all creative geniuses in any way are crazy. But what I've heard is that crazy girls are the most fun in bed. So I have that to look forward to, at least. I will tell you from. I'm careful how I say this. The crazier, the better. That's what I'm saying. I'm not joking.
Oh yeah. Seriously, if you can put
we'll fucking do anything. No, I'm sorry.
Please don't take this language the wrong way. We're Australians.
You're not insulting me.
It might sound a bit insulting, but it's not meant to be. Okay. There is an argument in Australia, marry the psycho bitch if you can put up with the problems. Because you will never be bored and you will be living in a porn film every day of your life.
Right.
Privately is what we're talking about.
I do not, however, recommend having a mistress that is crazy.
Oh, no. I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that. I was married to one of the world's great... Well, we were actually married. We were, what do you call it? Partners.
I know. Yes.
It's just easier to say that. She was nuts. I can say that now. She's dead. All right. I mean, she was nuts. She was absolutely crazy. But my God, she was also amazing. Let's not say anything more about that than that. We'll just leave it at that.
I've heard about some of it, but let's just not talk about it.
Yes, off the air. Not on the air, yes. We're
still recording.
I don't remember. We're still actually recording.
And I've already made too many double entendre jokes. Sorry. Maybe I have it. I'm a little drunk now. I can't remember.
What are those British movies, the Carry On movies? Oh, wow.
I have no idea what you were referencing.
What was his name? Kenneth Moore. Was it Kenneth Moore? Kenneth Winnie.
Is that the guy who...
is that the guy? Oh, you are naughty, but I do like you.
No, I don't know him. For a second, I thought you were talking about the guy who played Ken in the show Cuckoo. Because that show is crazy. And his name... Yeah, I thought you were talking about him. So.
Kenneth Williams is a British... yes. Well,
he's super tall. Like 7-something or something. Or 6'7" or 6'9".
Sorry, what? Kevin Williams? Oh, no, not Kevin Williams.
No. This guy I'm talking about.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to offend the British, but no, he was a fantastic Kenneth. Is it Kenneth Williams? I'm sure it was Kenneth Williams. He's in all the Carry On films, but he's a British icon. He's like a national treasure. But he also turned out to be a war hero. He fought the Japanese in Hong Kong or something. He was Quite an amazing man, and of course had to deal with being a homosexual in Britain's 1940s and 50s. Quite an amazing man, quite an amazing man. What I was going to say, it's Moomba in Melbourne. It's Moomba Madness. Moomba is a festival that we have every year in Melbourne. So it's 3 days of Moomba Madness, which is...
what does it celebrate?
Technically what it actually celebrates? Let's have fun together.
Yay!
That's actually what it means. It means everybody forget what you're doing, just have fun. Have fun for 3 days. That's all you're meant to do, just have fun for 3 days. And it's called Moomba. How does it get its name? Well, you may ask. Thank you for asking that, Iris.
I figured you'd know. I wanted to know.
I know. Sorry. It's one of these stories like Kangaroo. It's one of these weird bastardized stories that's written itself into history, but it's not true at all. Okay, have you ever heard the story about how did the kangaroo become called the kangaroo?
Nope.
Okay. Supposedly the story was early settlers arrived and they pointed, or as not early settlers, it's actually Captain Cook's expedition when they were in Botany Bay in what is now modern day Sydney. And and they met some Aboriginals and they pointed to this weird fucking 2 meter, 6 foot tall rat that bounced around, right? Which no one had never seen anything like this animal before. And they pointed and said, "What is that?" And the Aboriginals looked at each other and said back to them, "Kangaroo." And the story went that kangaroo was the native Aboriginal dialect of the Sydney area for what the fuck are you talking about? In other words, I don't understand you.
I don't understand you.
Kangaroo was, I don't understand you. Now, we now know that's absolute bullshit. That story is totally made up. God. It's not true. But there was a similar story, apparently, with Moomba, which goes back to the 1950s, which apparently was when they decided what this... 1955 was the first Moomba. And they said, what are we going to call it? They said, well, why don't we do... We're Australians. We always use Aboriginal names to name everything all the time. And hence why Australia always have towns like, Isabangawonga, and stuff like that. No one knows. Right, it's because they're Aboriginal names. It's why Americans can never pronounce Australian names properly. And because they are, in fact, Aboriginal. So they said, well, let's find out what, come together, like embrace means in the local... Because you have to remember... There's something actually like 400 Aboriginal languages. There's not one. All right?
Yeah.
So everyone forgets that. I hate it when I see on TV a foreign fucking... I saw this on Doctor Who once. Really annoyed me. Where the assistant said... The one who played an Australian, but she was actually British, but she played an Australian. And she said, oh, it's okay, I speak Aboriginal. It's like, no, you don't. There's no language as Aboriginal.
There's no such thing.
It's like saying, I speak European. It's like, what?
Right,
no,
exactly.
So anyway,
anytime that little groups, are kind of together like that, the language evolves into their own thing. I mean, shit, look at the Welsh.
But it's also the same in the United States. I mean, my understanding is that the Navajo could not speak to the Apache or to the Mohicans. They had different languages.
Exactly. Because they developed their languages in separate groups.
Yeah.
So their languages developed independently of each other.
And they weren't nation states in their own right. Just because they didn't build a stone fucking cathedral doesn't mean they weren't nation states. This is where the fucking Maoris got away with it, because they did actually build fucking stone cathedrals and stuff. So they were very early on able to claim, fuck you, we are a nation. But that's another story. Yeah. They were very lucky, the fucking Maoris, the way they were able to do that. Also, they fought like fucking kick the British ass, but that's another story as well.
If anybody's out there, I do suggest there's something on the web where you can find out what indigenous tribes lived in the area where you live now. And I think it's always a good idea for everybody to go and look at that and learn a little bit about the people who were in your area. At least that. I just think it's important to understand more about indigenous cultures. Here in America, we don't really talk about uncomfortable things. But of course, we committed major genocide all over the fucking place. And we started here with the native people. And then we claimed they were savages and we took it. So just like England, it's pretty gross to me. And I think we need to continue to tell people and remind them they should learn more about the nations and actually, because I think when you learn something, you don't have prejudice anymore, honestly. Not totally, but you become a more knowledgeable person, therefore your views expand in a way that hadn't been expanded before. And I think everybody should do that all the time, especially with things that actually matter about our real history and who we should be as a people. So I'll stop ranting now.
No. I'm
going to take another shot.
You made such a great point. It's like I've always argued it's much harder to kill somebody that you know. The more you know about a culture, the less likely you are to attack it.
I think that's also why if you travel, you become less racist about people in different places.
You are so... and I'm going to get political here, but I'll cut it back because we're talking about Moomba. Come together. Moomba!
Oh, yes. Don't let me forget that.
Yes, but every America... I'll just use America as the example because, hey, look, the world likes to hang on America. It's kind of just something you've inherited. But
we earned it.
Well, yeah, I don't want to kind of insult an entire nation. I don't think that's fair, but... because, you look at someone like yourself.
As a whole, we've earned it.
Well, someone like yourself who's brilliant, so.
Oh, yeah. Just keep it coming.
I'm a man that's turned 50. I know what to say when I have to. Anyway, but digressing within the digression.
Moomba.
I was going to say something about something, and now I can't even remember what the fuck that was. And probably people are listening saying, Warren, you were about to say this, and I can't even remember. So we'll just go back to Moomba.
That's been happening to me a lot lately, and literally I think there's a disconnection in my brain because my brain instantly knows what I want to say, but I can't seem to get it to my mouth at all.
Traveling. That's what I'm saying. What I have found, if you hop on social media and you talk to Americans who have travelled, like let's say they've been to Asia, they've been to Europe, been to Australia, maybe been to South America that's not just Cancun, like actually been to South America or Central America. What I mean is that they've been to Argentina or they've been to Brazil or they're not just not just gone and lied on a Mexican beach for 5 days before they flew back. Exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Interact with them.
Well, it's like the British were saying, I understand Spanish culture. I went to the Costa del Sol on a 4-day package holiday. No, you don't understand shit. So
especially if you're on a tour with a bunch of old people that they're just doing the little things and they're hearing the spiel and they don't interact with anybody really locally. And then they come back and tell you all about it. And you're like, well, what kind of food was it? And blah, blah, blah. And they literally don't have more information than what they were handed. And it's like, okay, this is weird. I don't want to be one of those people.
There is a fantastic, even though I'm complaining about America, but here we go, an amazing American movie, which was made in the 1960s called This Is Tuesday, It Must Be Belgium.
Okay.
Fantastic film, because they were on a tour bus in the 60s, touring Europe. Right, and it's great. It's Tuesday. We must be in Belgium. It's like it's a great little film.
That's actually cool.
It's a fantastic little film. I mean, there are a lot of really beautiful films in that mid to late 60s period made in America, which are mainstream. They're kind of quite progressive or liberal, but they're still kind of middle class at the same time. They were able to find a fantastic balance where they could make a statement without pissing half the country off. It was really, I don't know, maybe the term is family friendly. I'm not too sure, but I don't know. Anyway, what I was going to say is that Americans, what I found is the difference between the ones who have been overseas and the ones who haven't. And especially when it comes to all of this, Trump fucking love fest, right? Which is going, the golden statue of Trump at
oh my
fucking
God, that is
CPAC.
that's a cult. We can't include them in anything in reality because those people are nuts.
But the thing is that when you look at them, the ones who have travelled don't follow the cult. It's almost like you've got to have not fucking left your country to follow the cult, Well,
in a sense, you have to be ignorant.
Yeah, other than, as I said, the fucking 4-week lie on the beach festival at Cancun. Other than that, and it's amazing. You speak to any American who has travelled through Europe, who lived in or who maybe spent a year studying in Sydney, Australia, or took a gap year and was in Germany or, something like this. They don't fall for this shit because they've seen that there's more out there. There's more out there.
Exactly. They understand more about the world. It's the ignorance that creates the fear, that creates the hatred.
Yes.
And that's the problem. And I've said this many times, in our country, Republicans have systematically, over the years, lowered and lowered the standard for the kids in our schools, put less money into it and everything. And I am convinced it's because an ignorant population, just enough education for the poors to allow them to work at McDonald's or serve you somewhere. Okay? I really feel like that. And I lost my train of thought because I told you.
But the problem is it's a double-edged sword. And this is the thing I hate, is the far right have grabbed into the working class who were traditionally, I suppose what you would call, at least, maybe not in America, but at least in the rest of the world, what would be viewed as progressive or liberal.
Right.
But the far right has grabbed into them and they've said, follow us and you won't have to do that job anymore.
Well, there's some people that are always going to fall for that shit, though, too, because they don't have the ability for critical thinking. And that's part of the problem. In our schools, the Republicans have done that systematically, I think intentionally, taken away critical thinking, education, and different things like that, because an ignorant population is more easily frightened. And that's what our GOP loves to do, is frighten people into voting for them. And frightened people are more easily led a specific way. They are more likely to follow something that makes them feel more safe in their mind. And there's just so many people that can't comprehend why what they're thinking is wrong because they literally can't think it through. And then in our schools, we literally have set up a school to prison program for people, mostly of color, of course, because they don't really bother the white kids the way they bother the people of color. And they have set that up as a way to make money for themselves and their cronies because we have and I hope they're going to end it again because we tried, private prisons, making profit off of keeping people in prison, which of course doesn't allow for any kind of rehabilitation because they don't want to reintroduce you into society. They want to throw you out with a bunch of obstacles. So you have to go back to jail.
Well, see,
because that makes those people money.
But
and it's a whole fucking grift.
It is, but you can change it. See, you can still run capitalism and be socially just because
I agree with you.
Because countries like Australia and fucking Sweden have proved this sort of shit. Because what you do is you can still have private prisons, but their KPIs aren't based on numbers. That's not what their KPI structure is based on.
I don't think you can compare them. I don't think you can compare them to America. Because literally...
No, it's not. Because the KPI of American private prisons is how many people they process.
Yes.
Right?
They have to... Then they have contracts with the government to maintain a certain percentage of filled beds.
Absolutely right.
But they said to the government, this is the deal. You have to keep our beds this full. I mean, what the fuck is that?
But if you go to a private prison in Western Europe or Australia, where there are some, the KPI is not based on that. The KPI is based on maintaining discipline, food regulation, It's based on different shit. It's based on maintaining the people within the establishment. Exactly. It's not based on how many people come in and out.
I'm going to just point out. Well, I'm just going to point out to you that Norway is mostly white. So I can't compare them because really here we attack people of color.
Okay. Well, this is the other problem too. See, Australia is actually kind of mostly white too. A lot of people forget that. Do you know Australia is only about...
Only why you're not as racist. Don't tell me anybody's racist over there. I don't want to hear it. Allow me to keep my delusion.
Australia, there are racists in Australia.
There's racists everywhere. Ignorant people are everywhere.
We've got the Liberal Democratic Party. Yeah, believe it or not, that's a far right fucking party, guys. Liberal Democratic, yeah. And we have the
basically, so are our moderates, though.
What's the other one called? One Nation Party, which is run by a ginger lady called Pauline Hanson, who elected herself.
She has no soul now.
I know. She elected. She talks about democracy while she elected herself leader for life. Don't you love that?
What the fuck? Trump was going to do that too.
She actually elected herself leader for life of her party.
I think
she
that
cannot be removed. Yeah, she cannot be removed as leader.
That's bullshit.
Right? Yeah,
that's bullshit.
And they claim to be the upholders of democracy. You don't love it, don't you? You don't love it.
Well, because they gaslight everybody. They project. But like I said earlier. Some people project so much they could open their own damn movie theater. That's literally so bad.
I was just going to say, you can't make this shit up. Literally, it happened the same time the Chinese premier made himself leader of the Communist Party in China for life, right?
Yeah. She was like, oh, he's doing it.
She did the same thing. She did the same fucking thing. You've got to love it. It's just, comedy writers can't write this stuff. No. But no. I mean, for instance, Australia is about, I think, 12% of what they call Asian. But remember, that's getting really muddled now because, people are intermarrying so much that it's getting really complicated. I think it's about 1.5% are Aboriginal. I think about there's 1.5% are what you would call black, as in what you would call African black. Okay. And then I think there's about 3 or 4% which is Indian or subcontinental, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh,
right,
and so forth. And the rest is, and then you've got Middle East, which I think is about another 1.5%. The rest is white European. Australia is a very white country. Very white country.
I know. A lot of countries are very white.
Yeah.
We, however, are not.
Yes.
And that wasn't the choice of a lot of people. And I would just like for people to stop acting like because you lack melanin in your skin, that somehow makes you superior. Because we are all the exact same fucking species and genus. I mean, like, seriously. Well, I just get so sick.
Okay, I will tell you this. I can tell you this for a fact. When I was younger, I had a girlfriend who was born in the Republic of South Vietnam. And
yes, I remember you telling me.
Yes, and she was actually born when there actually was a Republic of South Vietnam, actually. And and she was one of the boat people, the refugees that came out to Australia. Mm-hmm. Mind you, she was only about 3 years old at the time or something like that. And I think they came out in the late 70s.
Coming from Cuba.
Yeah. And but anyway, so and I can tell you right now, there is no fucking difference. There is no fucking difference. Okay.
Exactly. People are people.
Yeah.
Just accept them for who they are.
Yeah.
But I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want to remind you that I wanted to know more about Moomba.
Moomba. So we do it right. Moomba. No, that sounds more. Now I'm trying to do an
That's Zumba here.
That's
Zumba. Just like Roblox here. I don't want to hear anybody talk to me about Zumba.
I'm trying to make it sound like Mardi Gras, like Sydney Mardi Gras. It's like Sydney Mardi Gras. Whoa. But Moomba's not like Mardi Gras.
Sydney has a Mardi Gras?
Fuck yeah, it's the second biggest Mardi Gras in the world. Well, third, probably, because you've got was it New Orleans or whatever, which is huge.
Yes.
Brazil is probably... so you've got Brazil, was it Rio is probably number 1. New Orleans is probably number 2. Sydney is probably number 3. But there's a big difference between Sydney Mardi Gras and the other two. It's
no titties.
Fuck yeah. Lots of titties, and lots of dicks, because it's equal opportunity, because it is
That's
an
like it's an
LGBTQ. Is that right? Have I got that right, or am I got that wrong?
Yeah,
right.
You have gotten that correct. Yep.
It is a festival of the LGBT of that community. Sorry. Because I'll get it wrong.
Don't worry.
So I'm not trying
You've been drinking. I get you.
Okay. In fact, it used to be called Gay Mardi Gras when it started. Just to give you an idea. Okay. Now it's just called the Sydney Mardi Gras. They have a huge parade and festival. Everyone is welcome, though. It's not just for people who associate as gay or lesbian or transgender or whatever. Now it's obviously. Let's be honest, it is about them. Yes, it's a festival of them expressing, we're out, we're proud, we're free, we're fun, you know what I mean? So, and that's great.
Yeah, I do.
But it's also, everyone else is allowed to attend. Here, I don't know if that would happen in America. I don't know, maybe it would in California. The police have their own delegation that march in the parade. They actually march.
I'm sure that should happen everywhere.
The New South Wales police actually march in the parade, not by the sides, in it. They have their own float.
Right.
They're standing there.
Nice.
They're standing there with giant angel wings in a G-string, going woohoo! Right.
Well, you know what? It's how I feel when I go down to Key West during Fantasy Fest.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of y'all have ever been there, but it is literally the craziest thing. But I love it so much because it's anybody expressing themselves in a sense any way they want. And there's the craziest costumes and you see a lot of skin and people are nuts, but in the best way. Like, I just love people being able to be free and express themselves in the way they want as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. You know?
Yeah.
I like to see people finding the freedom and releasing the inhibition to do something like that. Because honestly, I don't always have enough courage to do things that I think would be fun. And I always respect people who just are themselves all the time. And I want to try to accept people like that. So I love that city. It's a huge party. If you guys ever get a chance to go, I do recommend it before climate change destroys the island entirely. You go down there now, around when the tide comes in, you're walking in ankle-deep water on the island.
Oh, God.
It's going to be gone soon. So honestly, you guys, if you have a chance to get down there, I do recommend it. It's probably, I can't remember now, 3 or 6 hours drive across a bridge to all the Keys to get all the way down to Key West, which is the southernmost point of the U.S.
Are those bridges that they used in True Lies? Are those the bridges you're talking about?
Well, it could be. I don't remember which bridges they were. Were they going to Key West?
I think they were. Do you remember in the movie with True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger? No.
I mean, I remember the movie, but I don't.
Where Tia Korea gets killed, which I always hated because I loved Tia Korea. Tia Korea? Tia? I can't remember. Carrera? I thought she was so fucking gorgeous. Oh, well, yeah.
You think that about a lot of women on TV.
I can't help it. I can't help it.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, but I also think I think a lot of men are gorgeous. I'd fucking turn for Pierce Brosnan. I'd turn tomorrow. You know? I mean...
I'd only turn for, Daniel Craig. No, I'm
I don't
not
turn for
anything. No, but the thing is that I like a lot of things. So I'm just going to leave that there.
Leave that there, yes.
Y'all allow your imagination to do whatever it's going to do.
I do remember a conversation like that. No, I can't say it on air.
No, you cannot. No, if it's about me especially.
No, it's not about you. It's not about you.
It's about her, and don't.
No, it's about her, so I can't say it on air. It's not
fair.
Don't
say that on air.
No, sorry.
Story.
No. Anyway, Moomba. What is Moomba? I don't know. That was half an hour ago. What is Moomba? So anyway, we're saying that it's called...
It's more proof we need to change the name of the show.
We were saying how the story of the kangaroo, how apparently it was a made-up story, all right? But apparently the whole idea was that let's have fun together. So they said, all right, what is the tribe that lived in Melbourne who, I'll be honest with you, I can't actually tell you what their nation name was. I really don't know.
We're drinking. I don't expect you to look it up or anything.
No. And they said, well, okay, well, what would, come together, join, hugs, sort of thing, be in their language? Or their language. We should actually say our language, really, but anyway. Right. And I said, and someone apparently said Moomba. And I said, all right, we'll call it Moomba. And apparently this story went through time. It's just a made-up word. It does not mean that at all. Moomba
people have accepted it, so now it means that.
Yeah, apparently Moomba was actually, somebody came up with Moomba meant Melbourne, orientation. Like it didn't mean what the story was at all.
Oh, Lord.
But
the stories are always better than the truth.
But, of course, the far right, the Rupert Murdoch press is in uproar. Because every year they have the Moomba monarchs. Now, when I was a kid, they used to have the king and queen of Moomba. Now, they changed that in the 1990s, I think, to just be the monarchs, where they would have... So, you'd have 2 women, you'd have 2 men, you know what I mean? It didn't matter. You just chose people to be the head of... like, the king and queen, if you like, but... not the king and queen. People know what I'm trying to say.
But not gender specific.
Right. So they got rid of the idea of having the king and the queen, who would be... Right. Because they do. They hop onto a big float and they're carried down the centre of the city on this big thing. And they sit in a throne, right? They sit in thrones and everything like that. And they have a crown. They get given a crown and they have to do press conferences and all the rest of it, right? And anyway... Now, they used to always choose...
You should see me in a crown.
Now, they always used to choose celebrities and all this sort of stuff. They stopped doing that about a decade ago, and now they choose real people with real stories.
Nice.
And we've come out of COVID, 2020. So, you ready for who they chose? They chose 3 people to be the monarchs this year. They thought 3. A cleaner, a supermarket worker, and a doctor.
I think that's great.
Now, I think that's a wonderful thank you to all of those people who put their lives at risk through 2020, if you live in America, 2021 as well, and Europe as well. Fuck me, Europe. Get your asses and act together. Jesus fucking Christ, what is wrong with you? You're a first world group of countries and you cannot deal with this? It's not acceptable. Anyway, sorry, but...
No, don't worry. I don't feel bad about talking about anything. Yeah. Except for that stuff I told you not to talk about.
Oh, okay, yes, yeah. Yeah, I know, sorry. I mean, seriously, Germany and France, fuck it. I mean, you cannot get your act together over this. Really. Even Britain has started to get their act together now. How the fuck are you now falling behind? You're meant to be these progressive nations, and you cannot deal with this. And yet, Australia and New Zealand are these shining bastions of how to fucking do it, and you're still arguing with each other. I don't get it. But anyway, although I do understand that if you have a solid border, it's much harder. But anyway, but I thought, what a great thank you to these people who, let's be honest, have put their lives on the line to make everybody else's lives work. You know, it's like it's like when soldiers come home from a war, they did a parade. Well, they don't these days, but you know what I mean. The idea of that, right? So
I wish. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, why not?
Say it in a second. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, where's the parade for the supermarket workers?
Yeah,
you know, they were all
really putting themselves on the front lines for us. I mean, so
here's the thing: 16-year-old, let's say, a 16-year-old boy who goes to, you know, do your checkout when you're there to load the shelves where you're walking around. There's corona fucking being breathed everywhere, and this guy or this young girl, they're 16 or 17, and they turn up. Right, every day. Well, not every day. They would be at school, but you know what I mean. I think people.
I was out of school at 17, so
I think people know what I'm trying to say. Where's their fucking parade? right? You know what I mean?
I agree with you.
But where
we need
is
to actually
there...
start treating... We need to start treating the people who make our lives easier.
Yeah.
We need to treat them better.
Well,
I don't, go ahead, and then I'm going to not forget what I was going to say because it's important.
I was just going to say, it annoys me, and look, okay, I'm a net soldier, what you Americans call a veteran, okay? I don't, but I don't call myself a veteran because I'm an Australian, we have a different ideology. But the thing is that what annoys me is the soldiers and even net soldiers get to march in parades all the time. But we've just come through COVID. Where are the fucking parades for the nurses, the doctors, the fucking pharmacy workers, the shopkeepers who stayed open to sell you your carrots and turnips and bok choy while this was going on? You know, the supermarket workers, you know, who would turn up, you know, hiding behind Perspex screens, you know, like a fucking armoured personnel carrier gunner hiding behind his metal screen in Afghanistan. What's the fucking difference? I'll tell you what, the breath from a COVID person is no different to a bullet from a fucking Afghani rebel. It's going to kill you. Right? So where's their parade? Anyway, I'll stop ranting.
We do it here in America. We put the military in everywhere because we have an all-volunteer army and we have low turnout for joining, especially as we've gotten in more recent times. They literally use propaganda constantly to try to get people to believe that if you voluntarily enter this place, you're going to have honor and forever people are going to respect you and treat you with this. Okay, so they fill these guys' heads with this. They get some PTSD and shit from whatever they're doing. They come home, and unfortunately, too many of them commit suicide. A lot of people really need a lot of work after. But some of them, for the rest of their lives, that's what they cling to as their identity. But we do that here because if you tell people with our propaganda, the way we do, patriotism and be respected and stuff, it lures people in that feel like they might be able to become something because of that. You know who we really need besides absolutely the people you were talking about, our frontline workers, to be more respected and more honored? I really want people to think about the way our society has decided to view teachers. Okay? I am really upset by the fact that we keep paying our teachers lower and lower and lower, and we keep asking them to do more and more and more. Not only do they have to teach our children and keep them while we can go to work. Okay? They also, lost my train of thought. Oh my God. Now we expect them, with all the school shootings and stuff that we've had, we started to tell them, well, you're responsible for protecting the children. Okay. So that got added to their job, Secret Service protection, basically, from school shootings, because the government wouldn't do anything. It was on the teachers in the schools to fix it for themselves. And now, and they pay them even lower. They can't get the right benefits for themselves or their students. That's why they have the teachers unions, and everybody thinks that that's bullshit. And they're just complaining. Well, no, they're not. You guys are literally asking them now, again, to put their lives at risk so that you don't have to deal with your children all day. Because I swear to God, I've heard that so many times. I'm so tired of the children. You know what? Then you shouldn't have spread your legs and had a baby. Okay? Because children are fucking annoying. And you have to deal with it. I love them. They're amazing. Kids are great in a way.
They're hard work, though.
No, I mean,
they're hard work.
In all the positive ways, yes. But I'm just going to say to you straight up, those children are watching every fucking thing you do and all that stuff. And for you to just be annoyed because they exist, I don't give a fuck. Okay? I don't want to see our teachers go back into a place where none of the schools have adequate ventilation. Well, very few of them, okay, especially in lower income neighborhoods. And the teachers are doing their best to try to get these kids to pay attention and learn something within the parameters that they're allowed. Plus, they have to be their bodyguards and maybe like James Bond and shoot somebody. People expect that. They didn't get a raise for that, all this shit going on. And now they want them to go back to school, to open up the schools, so that parents don't have to deal with their children anymore without the proper ventilation or anything for these kids or the teachers or the people that work in the school. And I am just absolutely disgusted that here in America, we pay football players or basketball players multi-millions of dollars to play a fucking game with a ball, to entertain the masses so they don't actually pay attention to what the fuck's going on here. And I'm sorry I'm ranting, but it really bothers me that over and over again, we keep piling more shit onto our teachers. We're not doing anything to help them. And I just would really like to see that fucking change in this country. If we paid the people, the teachers, the way we pay athletes, I think that would be better. I think the athletes should get the teacher salary, and the teachers should get the famous athlete salary. Okay? Because they're the ones doing the work, and they're the ones actually making it possible for you to have sanity, I guess, to not be around your children. And that's really what this is about to me. I think over time we have continuously added more and more to them that we expect from them, because I guess society seems to think that they're there to just service us as a babysitting service. So I'm going to stop ranting, but I think in our country, we really need to look at that more. So,
well, you know, there are countries that do actually pay teachers a proper wage. I mean, I know in Australia.
I'm talking about America, dude.
Oh, okay.
I know. I understand what you're saying.
In Australia,
you're in America.
In Australia, most Australian teachers would do, depending on what you teach, probably 4 years at university, 3 years for a degree, 1 year for what they call a DipEd, which is their teaching diploma.
Right.
And sorry, I just snorted there. Sorry. I
did that several times.
Yeah. But then obviously science teachers may be different. You know, you're right. So just take all that into account. And
you know what we do here in America? We take PE coaches and make them teach classes like geometry and shit to kids.
You can't do that in Australia.
Yeah.
You've got to be
You have to teach a class, even if they're not trained in it. They got to go teach it because that's how they get their money. I don't want a gym teacher teaching me fucking geometry. That's why I failed geometry.
Okay, I mean, for instance, you can do things like, for instance, someone who's based in literature, are they allowed to teach history? Yes. But are they allowed to teach maths? No. Right? You know what I mean?
Not unless they also got a degree in math.
Correct. That's exactly right. So there is some flexibility. Yeah. But also, my understanding is when they leave university and they get their first teaching job, I think these 24-year-old young teachers going into work, they're being hit with $50,000 salaries. They're not going in at fucking poverty wages.
Here, our top salary for Florida teachers, like starting pay, is like $39,000.
Oh, fuck me. Well, I think Australian teachers actually earn more than that at 23.
Oh, I'm sure.
When they enter, let alone before they start to rise up through the ranks.
Not everybody becomes a teacher at 23 here, but yeah, I mean, I get that. But starting salary at $39,000 in Florida, in Orlando, are you kidding me? Like, how are you supposed to survive? I know a lot of teachers that actually had to get jobs driving Uber and stuff like that so that they could actually make ends meet while they did what their passion was, which to help teach kids. And it really bothers me. I'm sorry.
That's wrong. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong.
I just kept seeing it at my son's school. I see it happening all over. It pisses me off. And to hear the disparaging comments from people about what the teachers' unions are trying to do, makes me hot under the collar. And I just want to, because I don't have any filter. I think we've learned.
You don't need a filter. I don't want you to have a filter. No, everyone loves you the way you are. You don't need one. You just got to be who you are. This is the thing. People have got to be who they are. Just be who you are. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. It's like one of my friends sent me a link. He said, "Oh my God, you will not believe this. There is a stand-up comedian in America who's now got his own YouTube channel doing interviews, and he's called Dr. Z. Because I used to call myself Dr. Z on podcasts, right? No.
Yeah, I remember.
But the thing is, but he does the makeup and everything. He's dressed up like Dr. Zaius. And he does a podcast or a video podcast where he's actually interviewing real fucking people from the movies and television as Dr. Zaius. Right? Or he sits back by the pool, and he does these chats talking about, like, these lifestyle chats dressed as Dr. Zaius. And it's absolutely amazing. And I sort of thought, I'd love to tell a fucking certain person from Michigan to, yes,
hey,
your narcissist system is fucked.
Breathe, let that go.
It wasn't about you. Dr. Zaius is a real fucking thing, you moron. Well, he's a QAnon fucking believer. He's a QAnon fucking believer. Who gives a fuck? You know what I mean?
I don't give a shit.
So
nuts.
No.
Okay.
Anyway,
like, how could you even believe that?
No, but can we just pause for 2 seconds? 2 seconds.
We've been on here like 2 hours and 20 minutes. We probably should.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what.
Or like 2 hours.
Can we just pause for a moment and then we'll be back and we'll finish up? Is that all right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
The Saint has got to do a slash. Otherwise, the study is going to become very uncomfortable. Is that all right?
That's too much information, Warren.
Sorry.
Go.
All right. No worries. All right. We'll be right back. Whoa! We just landed in the TARDIS.
I'm scared.
Oh,
ghost?
Yes. No. That was meant to be my David Tennant going, whoa. That's more Matt Smith, isn't it, with his wavy arms. Whoa.
You're like, you know what? We're going back to something we digressed from earlier there.
I can't before we do that. Yeah, but David Tennant and Matt Smith are so cool, and I'm just like a fucking wanker. It's not
Matt
really
Smith
the
was
same
my
thing.
Matt Smith was my first Doctor. I will always love him most. Then Peter Capaldi. I don't really watch David Tennant. I'm sorry. I have to move on, okay? I want to tell you something. We were just talking about you sending something from there to here, and I just wanted to mention that I have one little package of the original Tim Tams left that I had
you got one left.
Away from everybody, because let me tell you something.
I sent them to you.
Everybody in my house
hang on.
ate them.
That was over a year ago, wasn't it?
That
was pre-COVID.
Love those. I don't know where I'm going to get another one. It was. I know it was.
I'm sure it was pre-COVID.
No, I don't. We just moved into this house.
No, it was COVID.
I don't think that's right.
Because I had to wear a mask to take him to the post office. That's right. Yeah, no, you're right. It was.
So for those of you who don't know, a while ago, Warren sent me a care package of my favorite things. And he had already sent me something, and it had little samples of different things from Australia in it. Yes. And I got addicted to those Tim Tams. And the ones we get here in America, even in our international section, I think they come from Britain. They taste different. I don't know what the difference is. But I only
because they're British. Don't trust the British.
Exactly.
Trust an Aussie.
They're
trust
just
an Aussie.
It.
Yeah.
I really just like the Australian version of the original Tim Tams. I don't know
it's
how to
not
describe
a British,
it, and I will not.
It's
let
not British.
Have one.
It's not the Australian version of the Tim Tam. It is the original Tim Tam. We invented
it's from Australia. Okay.
Oh yeah, we invented it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. They copied it.
Okay,
they fucking copied it.
The colors on the package are different here, and because I think they come from the UK, because it's in the British section of our grocery store of the foods. Because here in Orlando, so many people come. We have a ton of different sections of international foods that I really have never seen anywhere else because I haven't lived a lot of places. But we went back to Nashville recently. No, not recently. A year ago or something. And we went to buy some stuff in the store, and we walked down the aisle where it said international foods. And on one side was Chinese food, like the Chungking stuff in cans and just different ridiculous trash.
Yeah.
And on the other side was Mexican stuff from like Taco Bell version of Mexican food. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, this is it? So to them, apparently, international foods means either terrible Chinese food or like American style Chinese food or Mexican food from Taco Bell. I was appalled.
God.
Oh my God. No wonder y'all are so fucking backwards here. Like, I'm sorry. And I don't mean that in a way, but I do, because I started high school in Florida, but by the time I went to 10th grade, I was in Nashville. And I lived there for a very long time in Murfreesboro until I got out of school. I have a lot of reasons for not raising my son there. Because, of course, there's amazing people there. I was about to say, like, there's amazing people there.
Can I just say, because it was Nashville, because somebody stole your truck and ran away with your partner and your dog?
All right, that's insulting. No.
Sorry, I just had to throw it in.
I know that's the shit, but let me tell you something. A lot of people might not know this. Might not know this about Nashville. And I'm going to be a little protective of it because I do love it.
No. I think
it's a massive city. It's massive. It's growing bigger and bigger every day. More people are moving there than almost anywhere every day than anywhere else, because everybody wants to be a star, and somehow that became the place. So it's growing bigger and bigger and bigger. There's a lot in the music scene that doesn't even involve country music. Most of the tourist shit, sure. But if you actually get down, there are some amazing musicians from those areas. Amazing. And nobody thinks about them because they're from Nashville. They assume it's like country music and shit.
I've heard of jazz musicians going to Nashville to record.
Well, a lot of them do.
I'm not joking. I mean, I've heard of people with totally different genres going to Nashville to record.
That's what I'm... Absolutely. Yeah. It's true. It's a mecca for that. But in people's minds who haven't been there, they're just assuming that it's like the old Grand Ole Opry and stuff like that, which there's still all that history. And I actually graduated from high school on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry, which was cool. That was neat to me, but it's a great city, and I don't want people to think that it's just filled with a bunch of rednecks. That's true, but there's also a whole lot more going on, and I do suggest people to visit the city. And I'm finished giving you my travel review.
Well, here's a question for people who don't live in America. And obviously, international travel is impossible at the moment, and probably will be for the next...
Unless you're an idiot.
Well, or with a lot of money.
Like Ted Cruz.
Oh, Ted Cruz. How the fuck was he able to even go to Mexico in the middle of a pandemic? On a holiday? I don't understand that.
Because there were no laws keeping them from doing it?
Well, Ted Cruz doesn't believe Corona's real? Or I don't know. Or COVID's real? I mean,
he believes. I just know that he was trying to save his own ass and his family.
Oh, I know.
While people were fucking suffering in Texas recently.
Well, he's an asshole. It's like when the Prime Minister... Well, it's like, I don't know if you remember the huge bushfires a year and a bit ago. In Australia,
I remember Australia was
in fact, do you remember the photos I sent you from me driving to work, where you couldn't see more than 100 meters down the road, like down the street?
We have wildfires here in California.
I don't know, but this was the whole fucking eastern seaboard.
That's what I'm saying. We're not our whole country.
Right, and you remember I sent you those photos where you couldn't breathe, like it was just like, and because I remember you sending me messages saying, Warren, are you all right? Like, are you okay? Well, and I was sending you updates, and it was like, it's okay, it's okay. Because my parents don't live where I live; they live in a different town,
right?
And and I said, my parents are okay. You know, they haven't been hit or whatever. And I said, and I said, the fire I think at the moment is about 200 kilometers away from there. And it was a bit like, that's close, isn't it? But in Australian terms, it's like, that's fucking nothing. Nah, that's nothing. Don't worry about that.
Too close to me for my phone. All right.
I still remember the story.
I am against being on fire. It's something I am totally against.
I still remember
I don't want to be on fire.
One of the stories of the coastal beach towns, like the home and away towns. You won't get that as an American. The Europeans might get that. It was a TV show from Australia called Home and Away, set in a coastal beach country town, and a bit like Amityville. Amityville, where Jaws was set.
Jaws,
Jaws, a town like that, right?
New England kind of,
Right, okay, yeah. So forget about the shark. Just think about the town, right? So towns like, because Australia has got, my God, hundreds of thousands of those towns up the coast. Where people live, right? And just everybody is dawdled in by the beach. And there was a story of one of these towns, and the fire came in, and everyone had evacuated, and somehow or other, these two families had lost contact with their children. I don't want to bore you with how they'd lost contact, because that just will drag on forever. But they'd lost contact, and the kids of these two families, and it was like we've got like a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 12-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 5-year-old or something like that. And they're there, and they decide everyone has left. They can see a wall of fire 150, meters in the air coming towards them. And you know what they decided to do? What? They said, fuck it. We're going to go out fighting. They found every
Was that fire... the man and a daughter? I saw a video.
No. These were kids. These were fucking 15-year-old kids. They found every hose they could find in the street. They were running because all the houses had been evacuated, right? Everyone had left. All right?
Right.
Okay, so everyone had left because the government says, get out. They say we can rebuild houses. We can't rebuild your life. Get out, right? So everyone had left, and the fire services have said, what do you want us to do? The flames are 150 metres in the air. How are we going to stop this fucking firestorm coming down on the town? So, what they did, there's fucking like 6 teenage kids, they found every hose they could, and they positioned themselves along the street of where their friends lived, where they grew up. They knew the parents of this house and whatever, and they defended their street. And they fought it for something like 12 hours without a break.
Yep.
They saved every house but one.
Wow, that's amazing. Because I was confused
it's
for a
just
second.
an amazing story. Amazing story.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about a video I had just seen, and one of the clip shows that shows you like people doing scary things and surviving in a sense, because I don't like to see people suffering in a sense, but those are or not even in a sense, I don't like to see people suffering.
I know.
But this was a clip about the fires in Australia, and it was a man and like his 13 or 14-year-old daughter, and they had a homestead out in the middle of nowhere, basically.
Yeah.
And the fires were coming closer and closer and closer, and honestly, the courage that young girl showed, I couldn't even believe it. I was just in awe of her because they fought the fire to keep their house safe and fought it from every direction for 16 hours.
Yeah.
And in the end, they actually saved their home. And I was just so impressed with the courage of this young lady.
Oh,
I love to see kids will act. Kids care about stuff. When they see something, they want to fix it. They will actually act because they don't have the fear necessarily that we do. But she was definitely terrified, but she was still able to have the courage to do it. And that was fucking amazing.
It's amazing to hear these stories about fucking children saving their neighbourhoods, right?
Yes.
Standing there facing walls of fire with garden hoses. Fucking hoses, right?
But I was really pissed at her dad.
Yeah.
Really fucking
all right, okay, yeah.
Like, who would leave their kid there and tell them that they had to be the only other, what the fuck are you doing? You all could have died.
The problem is, and this is something where it's like, how do I say this?
It's a homestead, I get it.
I'm not trying to defend them because I don't actually agree with them, all right? So I'm not trying to defend them, but they're brought up in a certain way, right? They're brought up this way, and the thing is that the kids in these areas, in Australia anyway, they would not run away. You've got kids who are 12 years old who will give their life to save a house against a fire. They're 12. Exactly. Fuck me. Yeah. Really? But the problem is...
Because at that age, they still care about people.
Well, no. But it's also more than that. They're brought up with this as part of their life. Fire is part of their life. And so the thing is, it's a bit like asking an Afghani child about war. Right? It's part of their life.
Whole existence.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And fire for these country young kids, it's part of their life. And
I'm sure.
And they
as
are
a parent, though, I was horrified.
Look, I agree with you.
But impressed with her.
I mean, I would be incredibly proud of a child who would do this, and then as soon as it was over, you can't do this anymore. I was going to say I'd slap them. You can't do that, but you would fucking give them a bollocking about what the fuck were you thinking? Get the hell out of there. We can.
He made her do it. He told her they were staying and she was going to fight the fire. So that's why I was mad. Okay, they weren't going to leave because they didn't want to lose everything, and I get that. But you also have a daughter to protect. So yeah, I don't.
Okay.
As a parent, I don't like that shit.
All my possessions, or my daughter.
Exactly.
Really?
Exactly.
You have to choose. You have to choose.
Exactly.
I can still remember when we had the Ash Wednesday fires, because fire is big thing in Australia, and
it is like in California here.
Well, yes, but Australia being the driest continent on the planet, apart from Antarctica.
Right, I'm sure it's a lot worse in a way too, because your whole shit goes up. Like everything goes up at once.
The other thing too, remember too, our trees are filled with oil. The indigenous trees with eucalyptus oil, so they explode. They fucking are bombs. They explode as the fire hits them.
That's crazy. Oh my god!
I can still remember hearing
that's some crazy shit.
I can still remember hearing an interview with what they call the CFA, Country Fire Authority in Victoria, when they fought the Black Friday fires, which was about 15 years ago. Right. And there was a town called, I think it was called Myrtleford, I think, but I stand to be corrected on that. And I saw him interview.
Details are not important.
Okay, and the what had happened was the army had done this contract for these armoured personnel carriers, and to try to keep the contract going, they came up with this idea that let's sell these fucking armoured vehicles, which were designed for Afghanistan, to the fire services. Maybe they can use them, right? And anyway, so the government bought them all to give them to the fire services. Right, there's a lot of people alive today because the government decided to spend some money on some decent equipment.
Well,
this guy told the story.
Everywhere.
This guy told the story that he was in Myrtleford and the fire was out of control. Like it was the fire that there was no way known they could stop it. This was like abandon everything and run like fuck. We can't stop. The fire is now moving at 50 kilometers an hour. Can you imagine a fire moving that fast?
I cannot because I
you think
don't like to think about shit.
You're in a car. You're driving on the American speed limit. What is that? 60 miles an hour, right? 60 miles an hour?
Not always. It's really varying.
Okay, let's just pretend it is. Think of dropping that speed by half. That's the speed the fire's moving down.
Right.
Okay, and you're trying to stop this, and the wall of fire is 200 to 300 meters. That's what? 600 feet.
That's what's been going on in California.
In the air.
That's what That's what a few years ago has happened.
This is a fire wall. It's a wall of fire approach. You cannot stop this. There is no way to stop it. It's coming to you.
And it makes fire tornadoes. That's fucking crazy.
It is.
Tornadoes.
And then it gets to the point where the temperature gets so high, the oxygen fucking detonates. And the air catches fire. Now, okay. This is where it gets really bad. So anyway,
you're freaking me out.
Okay, so they're in there. They now have been hit by two fire fronts coming down on the town. They couldn't escape. They were in their fire truck, but luckily their fire truck was built by the Australian Army, not by. It was not just a truck.
Some private company,
They closed the hatches, sealed it all, put on the recycled air systems and everything, put on their fire, those silver bloody blankets and stuff.
Yes.
Put them over, laid on the floor. That's right. They said they backed this thing up against a brick wall. Okay, like a wall of brick. Okay, which was they backed it up. The firestorm hit. They said the truck was actually shaking from side to side, right?
I can imagine.
Shaking from side to side. It was all over.
All that wind.
Every single one of them survived. When they finally exited the vehicle, they looked at a melted, blackened mass that they had once called a truck. They were still alive. All of them survived. The wall that they'd hid behind didn't exist. It had melted. The brick wall had melted, right? But the truck had survived. Because this thing had been designed by the army and sold to the fire service. Fucking amazing stories. Those fires, I don't want to... It's the problem is it's one of those situations as an Australian where it's like you're filled with pride about what these guys and girls did, but at the same time you're sickened and saddened by it, and you don't... It's like, maybe it's a bit like an American talking, the Navy SEALs in Afghanistan did... I don't want to hear that. You know what I mean?
I don't think like that, because
it's kind of like, maybe I don't want to talk about this, because it's like, no one really wants to hear about that, But
I don't think it's the same thing as firefighters. Surviving a fire. I don't think. Yeah. Let's stop comparing our military people who are volunteer job to people who actually survived. And I know that a lot of people out there who are veterans and again, American version of veterans, and they really risked a lot and they hurt themselves and stuff like that. But I just wish.
Well, you also
people would remember.
I don't know. If
there's a lot of people out there serving us that are doing something.
I don't know if a lot of people realise, but those Australian fires, 99% of the people who fought them were part-time. They were reservists.
Yeah.
They weren't full-time.
Yeah.
They were part-time firefighters. They trained on the weekends.
Well, here in America, we take prisoners out and make them fight fires for us.
Oh, you're joking.
And then we put them back in jail.
No, we don't do that here. Well, we don't...
Well, America.
Well, there's a major reason why we don't do that here. They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
They don't care about these people. They don't care about these people.
Well, they reckon it takes 12 months.
They want them to go out there and risk their lives to save everybody else. Because it's their duty, because they're in jail. I'm sorry. I'm very bitter about a lot of shit in my country.
Well,
in case you hadn't noticed.
So, I'm assuming then you probably did not go to CPAC and kiss the bronze statue of Donald Trump.
I told you, I'm not going anywhere near that area of town until the entire city is fucking fumigated. I'm sick and tired of this oozing crap coming into my state because we have an ignorant, sorry, I sounded ignorant when I said that, an ignorant governor who really only cares about things like Trump and his cronies and his cronies.
Is this true, if I ask you this question? And if anyone is bored listening to this right now, fuck you. This is us recording our conversation. All right? So, I'm sorry, but this is what we do. We just record our conversation.
They don't have to listen.
So, is the problem with Florida right now politically the fact that the ex-Cubans or supporters of Cubans won't support the Democrats because of their experiences or what they've been told are family experiences in Cuba with Castro versus the reality, right?
I'm going to say a lot of the older Cubans here in Miami, a lot of the older ones are like that. They don't understand the difference between that kind of dictatorship, in a sense, the communism and the socialism and scary words that people put into people's heads. And they already had a preconceived notion of what those things were. So, in a way, I get that they would have some sort of issue. Actually, what I found is that the younger generations, their kids who were born here or came when they were really little, they're more tendency, oh my God, to actually vote more on the left. A lot of them, the younger ones. That's what I was saying actually about our society as a whole. As we grow into new generations, we're progressively moving forward, but at a slow pace. Things will change, not fast enough for the people who are suffering or the people who really care about actual people. But it does happen, yeah. I mean, our other problem here is that we have a lot of very rural areas that a lot of people wouldn't even realize are super rednecky and country in the same way that people, like some of the people in the outskirts of Tennessee are in a way. then they gerrymander the districts in a way and set them up so that Republicans will get elected. And they're trying to do something about gerrymandering. And the Republicans are all going, if you fix that, no Republican will ever get elected again. And we're like, that's kind of what we're going for.
Right.
Let's be fair and stop gerrymandering districts in long, skinny, weird shapes and stuff so that you can win a district. I want us to stop doing all of that. And again, it's also the constant GOP gaslighting and just utter bullshit. Like, I told you, I'm not happy with some of the stuff Biden has not done or has done.
We said we would talk about
like
that.
A lot.
Yes, yeah.
But,
sorry, I missed what you said. You're sorry, you didn't come through. You cut out. We missed the joke.
I'm covering my mouth in embarrassment.
Oh, okay.
I forgot what I was going to say.
All right, sorry. Because I think everyone's listening going, what did she say?
No, I'm talking to myself going, what the fuck? I forgot what I was talking about.
No, keep going. I was just telling you a story.
I know I was talking about Biden. No, I was talking about Biden, but I just couldn't remember what point I was trying to make.
Well, I'll tell you a story and if it comes back. And then is that after the Vietnam War, when the mass exodus of what was South Vietnam started to happen after 1970, was it 75? 75? I think 75, with fall of Saigon.
Right.
And so we had 5, 6, 7, 8 years of mass exodus, of South Vietnamese trying to flee the country, who didn't want to live under a communist Vietnam, for various reasons. Many of them not political, actually, believe it or not. I told you about how I used to date a South Vietnamese. Her family did not leave, but they didn't leave because they hated communism. They left because the fathers had served in the ARVN, the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, which meant their children were not allowed to go to university or get higher education.
That's ridiculous.
They were now those days are long gone.
Keep them ignorant to keep them from biting us,
So their attitude was, we have to leave because our kids can't progress. Because there was an attitude in the late 70s, early 80s in Vietnam, they were still punishing the South Vietnamese for the war, right? There was payback.
We're punishing the black people for not wanting to be slaves. Right.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
It's not quite the same, but yes, I get what you're saying.
No,
I get
it's not.
I know, but I get what you're saying.
How, like,
not quite the same, but I get what you're saying. Anyway, so they left not because they had a problem living in a communist state. They had a problem because their kids were not allowed to advance. Right. So, because how could this young woman go on to get a university degree? She wasn't allowed to because her father was a corporal in the ARVN Rangers. So, that would not be possible. So, anyway, so they hopped on a... Did I tell you the story? Have I ever told you the story about how they escaped from Vietnam?
You have. Yes, you have told me.
Oh, sorry. I won't
I'd have been on it. No, it's okay. You asked me. You have told me. That's no problem. But if you want to tell the story again, I don't have a problem. But I just want to say, I do have to get off of here pretty soon because I did promise my kid I would watch Dragon Ball Z abridged with him.
Then we won't worry about the story then. But what were we
Write it
talking
down.
about? What were we talking about? Oh, I don't even remember. Who cares?
I don't know, dude. I'm drunk.
So am I.
And honestly, I'm a little worried drunk history is going to come after us because you keep talking about historical events. And we're drunk as fuck. Okay.
I've been drinking, but I know nothing's been said which is going to be held against us in the court of law, so we're pretty all right.
No, not at
so
all.
that's okay. So we can probably wind it up then, if you like. To be honest, I mean, we've been ranting and raving for 2.5 hours. So
and people are probably really tired of hearing me forget what I was thinking about. Because I know I am.
First time listener. I'm a first time listener. No, was it first time caller, long time listener? No, you're not. No, you're not. No,
you're not. No.
Just honestly, if you're a long-term listener, you wouldn't be complaining because you know exactly what you're going to get. So You know,
I feel like with this, if anybody does listen to it, it's literally because they want to know more about either one of us, in a sense, the stuff that they don't get to see on social media. And sometimes I'm a little concerned. But lately, I've really been letting my crazy fly on there, so I feel like we're okay.
But you know what? I mean, one thing I've done is I don't have my Twitter linked to my work life in any way, right? It's totally not. Mind you, I'm also not posting nudie photos or anything, so I don't really have anything to truly worry
I'm only going
about.
to do that on OnlyFans where I can make a buck. Come on.
Although
you can't find me there. It's a joke.
Yes, guys, we're joking. You can't. Although I did hear, because I am actually friends with Alana Evans.
I don't care about. I don't have any issues. No. I'm not on there. Don't bother looking.
That's not what I was. That's not actually what I was. That's not actually what I was trying to say. Because she's the head of the Adult Performers Union of the United States. She's the union head, like politically. We're talking about. This has nothing to do with fucking sex. This is politics, right? She's the head of the actual union. So anyway, I'm actually friends with her, and we became friends because of food. Had nothing to do with fucking porn. We actually we used to share each other fucking food pics. Has nothing to do with fucking anyway.
That's how it always starts. Have you seen my Instagram?
I can still remember when we did the old Tonk movie show. We had Alana Evans on the show, right? And I think Alana Evans has made a porn movie in fucking 20 years. You know what I mean? So we had her on the show. So we were talking, and it's a little bit like, there's no mention of porn at all, because our connection has nothing to do with fucking porn.
Well, right? Exactly. You know? Just because somebody works in the sex industry doesn't mean that's who they are as a whole person.
Yeah, so we're talking about...
It's a job.
Well, I can still remember I posted a photo when I made Swedish meatballs, like traditional Swedish meatballs.
I love Swedish meatballs.
And she actually fucking tweeted me back, oh my God, I can't eat that, all that meat. Oh, that's disgusting, right? So the thing is that...
we can't be friends anymore.
She's done all video and stuff now. Which, mind you, I was for a number of years as well, so I can't complain. But...
I know a lot of people who did it. I could eat anytime vegetarian meal, but I know a lot of people that can't. But let me tell you something. There's no way I can go through life without eating practically raw red meat. Not ground, but like a steak or something like that. Yeah. I don't know what is wrong with me, but I have to order mine blue at the restaurant.
Yes, so do I.
Because they always overcook it. It's like practically raw. Yeah, but the only way I like it.
Yeah, but my daughter and I have this joke that we have that we were actually born vampires because we eat meat raw. We have no, in other words, you put and we have this other thing too. It's been a long time now as my daughter has long moved out. She has children. You know what I mean? But when she did live in the house, when we were a family and all that sort of stuff, that's a long time ago. But anyway, when that
still a family.
No, you know what I mean. When we were living under each other's feet and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I can still remember, and we had this obsession. My daughter and I, and Amanda used to go, what? Isn't it just meat? But she wouldn't eat it. She wouldn't eat it if it was meat. She wouldn't eat red meat. She would only eat fish.
That's not my problem.
She was. I know. She was. What do you call it? A pescatarian. I think is what.
Pescatarian. Yeah. Pescatarian.
And anyway, but my daughter and I, we'd do this thing, and we'd buy kangaroo because it's the leanest. It and venison are the two. They're so lean. There's no fat.
And ostrich is also very low fat. Ostrich.
Really? I thought that was fat central ostrich.
Oh no, it's you got to cook it really slowly because it will dry out if you don't because it's got so little amount of fat in it.
Oh wow, maybe that's emu then. It's fat central. Yeah, okay. Because I've had emu,
I could be
and
wrong.
that is.
I could be lying to everybody.
Oh no, it's camel.
I think that's what I remember. But I
think you're right. I think it's camel that's full of fat. Camel has a lot of fat.
I've never tried that.
I've had
I've never eaten goat, which I hear is amazing from a lot of people. I don't know psychologically if I can eat it. It took me a really long time to be able to eat lamb without gagging, just from the concept of it.
I don't want to live in Australia. That's all we eat is lamb.
I love lamb. It took me a long time to, I don't know if I had some psychological block to it because it was this cute little lamb or something, but I didn't eat it. But fuck, I love it now. You can give me lamb in any form and I'm going to eat it, even if it's like still alive probably, but not really.
I just think lamb is... Oh, no, I won't go down the path of trying to explain the difference. Lamb is...
No, it's a little more gamey in a sense. A little different than...
also, we should explain to lamb. So lamb is sheep.
Baby sheep, which is mutton when it grows up.
Okay, so yes, you have teenager sheep is called lamb. Adult sheep is called mutton. So once they hit puberty, which I think is 2 years, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I think it's 2 years, might be 1 year. It turns from lamb to mutton, and yes. So
before we go, because I'm going to have to get off here, but I do want to mention to people that if you are curious about how people in the U.S. check the sex of and castrate young lambs, which I don't know why you would be, but if you are, I did get super horrified and shocked at what they do. And I don't usually watch this, but somebody else turned it on. It was the Dirty Jobs episode with Mike Rowe, who has turned out to be a huge asshole. But he was doing a job learning
rip off of a British show.
I'm sure it is. Everything in America is. Yeah. And then he goes to do this. And I got to tell you, I was fucking shocked at what these people do. And I'm not going to say any more necessarily except to tell you they don't use any instruments to do this. I'm going to leave it at that. And I do suggest, if you're curious, which is horrifying, but also what the fuck, I do suggest looking it up.
Don't worry. In Britain, there used to be a job called keeper of the stool.
I know it was.
Do you know what the keeper of the stool was?
I do know.
You do?
Okay. For the king. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I'm not an idiot, but okay.
No, I wasn't suggesting you.
I'm teasing. I'm giving you a hard time.
Sorry.
That's my favorite thing to do to people when I'm drunk.
Yes. All right. Well, I reckon, considering we thought we'd do a norm, because the last couple of shows we've done have only been an hour and a half. And
we haven't talked in a while.
We've gone back to the 2020 things of the 3-hour shows. So, but we haven't quite got there, but, we're pretty close. So I reckon we might...
or none, or split it up. I don't care. Or don't listen.
Here you go.
We're talking anyway.
Can I just say something? Listen to the first half driving into work, and then listen to the other half driving home from work. It's not that fucking hard. It's just maths. Divide it in half. It's not that fucking complicated. Anyway, maybe I'm just...
No. Or them.
No, I'm just an Australian. I'm an Australian, what do they say? Aussies, we say it the fucking way it is. It's like, if I hear one more person say that, I'm going to fucking kill them. Aussies just say it the way it is. It's such bullshit. Australians are no different to any other people in any other fucking country on the planet. This idea that you're born in some fucking country, this idea that, Austrians are so genetically different to French. No, they're fucking not. They're just born in a different country. I mean, it just drives me nuts. Anyway.
I know. I was going to say something, but I forgot. Again. So, ta-da.
And if I ever see, if I ever see one more world leader say God's own country or God's chosen country, I will fucking just remind them.
Which God?
I will just remind them that according to the belief they follow, that's fucking Israel. So unless Donald Trump is claiming to be the president of Israel, can you just rewrite your fucking speeches?
No, he moved the capital to a different city because that's what the Israelis wanted, instead, like the right wing. But I don't want to talk about that now because I have to go and watch Dragon Ball Z Abridged with my kid.
That's a topic for another... Oh, fuck, that'll take a whole show, that one, wouldn't it? Yeah, anyway. All right, so...
But we won't remember and we'll change subjects anyway.
So it's still night for me, and it's still night for him. The two Ronnies.
Yep.
Boom, boom. All right, so I am Warren the Saint saying goodbye and
Irish, the Halo.
You can't remember.
That's who I was. It happens all the time. Sometimes I like to forget who I am.
I still reckon at the start of every show we have to say what the fucking the concept of the Halo and the Saint, and we just can we just
we don't owe anybody any explanations. Okay? If they can't figure it out on their own.
What about if every podcast just came with a link to Leslie Charteris? That you just read about it.
I'm thinking that you had probably explained all of this previously in another episode. So.
I think I have 20 times, but I keep wanting to. I want people. I want the Saint to beat Bond. See, I'm one of these guys who wants the Saint to be more popular than James Bond. It will never happen. But
Warren, I have to go.
Sorry. Either that or Irish is starting an ASMR service that you can follow on YouTube. I don't know.
That's a whole different thing.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Anyway. All right. No worries. All right. Cheers, guys.
Bye.